That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the show where we wax poetic about the movies we see on a month to month basis. It's time to crack open our
Movie
movie
Memoirs!
memoirs.
Yeah.
All right, Dragon, we are well past the fuck you, it's January season. We've got some real movies to talk about. Whether or not any of these real movies are any good or not kind of remains to be seen. It's been very hit or miss, but alas, definitely got some stuff on the docket. But we've got a lot of stuff to break down. Dragon, it was CinemaCon this past week. We actually had to delay Memoirs for a few days, but I'm kind of glad we did because we got a lot of news out of it. So let's get things started. And of course, as we always do, we start things off with our in memoriam section. And Dragon, just very recently, within the last couple days, we lost a legend. The one and only Mr. Val Kilmer has sadly passed after a very long battle. Dragon, this is definitely like, it was a long time coming, but it's still very sad. Did you ever get around to seeing Maverick?
No.
Okay, I know you're not a Top Gun guy. I'm not a Top Gun guy either. I don't even think I've watched the original Top Gun all the way through. And I didn't even really like Top Gun Maverick all that much. I've got to be honest with you. It was fine. It didn't blow me away like it did a lot of people. But I think the Val Kilmer scene was absolutely the highlight for me. And he has like one line, and the one line is just like an emotional gut punch. And so I do think it's really cool that Val Kilmer did get a chance to kind of reprise, arguably, besides maybe Batman, his most famous role, and have it be a really emotionally impactful moment. Dragon, obviously, we have Batman. And I think as time has gone on, his Batman has proved to be sort of like a dark horse. You know what I mean? Almost kind of like the Timothy Oliphant of the Batmans, if you will. I don't know if that analogy makes sense.
That's a terrible analogy. The Timothy Oliphant. What does that even mean?
Wait, Timothy. Oh no. Okay, I'm sorry. Timothy Dalton, Dragon. I'm thinking Timothy Dalton, not Timothy Oliphant. I'm so sorry.
I think the Bond you're kind of looking for is I know you're going for Timothy Dalton. But he's kind of like, I view more as the George Lazenby because he only did it once. But
no, I granted I know, but there's
you're right. No,
you're few actors who have done Batman only once, so I'm kind of like grading on a curve here.
Fair point though. Tim Dalton is very much a good comparison, though.
Yeah.
Timothy Dalton is like the underrated Bond, though.
Exactly.
Because people remember Lazenby because it was so infamous that he was the one and done Bond.
I feel like Clooney is clearly the Lazenby as far as the Batmans go.
Well, yeah, but Lazenby was better though. That's the
yes, sure.
Anyway. Okay, so look, it was a very sad start to my day when I got your email.
I kind of when we're putting together our news section. Sadly, sometimes stuff like this does happen where you get bad news through that.
So two things about that, by the way.
Oh God.
One. Here's the thing. Like it was getting late. I was like perusing the Geekvolution Discord server thing, and I noticed there was like something about we lost another Batman. Now I did like a lazy scroll up and I saw like it was like on the it wasn't like the news section. It was like them talking about Batman. I was scrolling up. And it's like, Affleck says, he just doesn't have the passion for it anymore. And I figured, okay, that's what they
meant. Did you think for a second that was the news?
Yes, initially I thought like, first my fear was that a Batman had died, and then I said, okay, no death, we're all clear. But apparently, I get your message. And then to make matters worse, it's like, I'm frantically checking it. Please tell me Tiki has bad April Fool's Day intel. And the fact that it's on
a really shitty April Fool's Day joke.
Well, that's the thing. They do the fake deaths all the time, and of course, of all days to pull the fake death thing, it would be April 1st. So that's why I was verifying it to my chagrin. Like, oh no, poor Kilmer.
Yeah.
But he was. I tell you, man, Kilmer was a guy who loved his craft. Wasn't perfect. The man, he was a perfectionist at times, had an ego, but he was playful. It wasn't like a bad. It wasn't like he was like terrorizing a set. He was just, yeah. The point being, he is playful. I Here's the thing. They loved him on Psych. Psych. They always they always like celebrated Kilmer and always referenced like Top Gun and stuff like that. And they actually got him like the cameo at the very last episode of Psych and all that kind of stuff. But I think we really got to know Kilmer through that documentary they put out a couple of years back. Val, you remember Val, don't you?
Of course, yeah.
Very informative and again a really good kind of insight into what kind of the man's career. It was very personal. He loved he was very much an archivalist. I think at the end of the day with Kilmer, I mean, there's a number of really good roles, but his Batman Forever just always to me the most underrated Batman. Again, the Lazenby and/or Timothy Dalton of Batmans. Here's the thing, like, he was at the time, but people don't really appreciate about Val Kilmer's Batman. At the time, for better for worse, I mean, I think it was for better. He was kind of the closest thing we had to the animated series Batman.
Yeah, he definitely was. I mean, he was definitely the Batman that was the most psychologically rich. I mean, it's funny because it's like I feel like the cost of that was having like Chase Meridian is like not just one of the worst Batman girlfriends of all time, but arguably one of the worst like movie girlfriends of all time, at least in the superhero genre. But still, like, her presence did make for some good exploration of Bruce Wayne's character, so it's kind of a trade-off there.
Yeah, but still, it was a Batman where, I don't know, he had, again, it's just, I love that, like, the initial bat suit we had him, I thought worked because we had the yellow, we had, like, the classic symbol on there, even if we did, go a little Schumacher with the sculpting. But, that suit was really murder on him. That's the thing. He really hated putting on that suit. But again, he definitely, it was like fate. Like he was in a bat cave when he got the role. Like this was big for him. And it's the fact that he felt he brought everything he could to that performance, despite being deeply uncomfortable in that suit and not realizing like the villains are really at this point in Batman's history and film. It was very much the villains were running the show, and Batman you can only do so much with it. And he got to see him do a lot more with the psychology, outside of the suit with Bruce Wayne, which again was the benefit. But again, he knew full well, okay, there's only so much I can do, and he knowingly he said this like in that documentary. Like he basically did soap opera acting. That's what he's doing, a lot of posing, and like it's again, there's only so much is being conveyed through the suit. But again, he worked with the limitation. Like he really brought it for that role, and everyone always like I hate. And you're part of the problem. Tiki was going to throw it. I think you've gotten better with it over the years. You're part of the problem. It's the fact that always lumping in Forever and Batman and Robin. Is always for years that was that.
I will still maintain that I'm sorry. I think Batman and Robin is a more fun movie than Batman Forever at the very least. Like I would rather turn that on just as a LARP. I don't know. I
don't know about you. I prefer a movie.
Batman and Robin is just a very special, so bad it's good movie for me. So it's really hot because obviously I know it's trash, but like it's my trash. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the Room of superhero movies. So from a pure enjoyment factor, it's just hard to compare, Dragon. You're right. It is apples and oranges. I shouldn't lump them together. You're right about that.
I always hate, like, the consensus was always people thinking about, they're always just lumping Schumacher entirely of, like, it was all the Clooney movies. No, it wasn't. There was one movie that I found pretty solid. Anyway.
I think my main issue with Batman Forever is just I really don't like how hammy Tommy Lee Jones was.
Well, yes, and that's agreeably.
Two-Face is one of my favorite Batman villains, and I really don't think I love the makeup on him. I love the makeup, but
I don't disagree. But again, let's not get sidetracked with just talking about Batman. For my point being, underrated Batman. But beyond that, I always felt. His performance as Moses in Prince of Egypt might have been his best performance.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's like I almost forget that it's him, but he really just kind of like transforms into the role.
What he and Ray Fiennes did in that movie is just that is top tier, and again, he had great chemistry. Even though he's most likely they were not in the same room during that.
And then another one I need to shout out is, of course, He was the role of Gay Perry in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yep. Which is great.
Another classic role of his, alongside Robert Downey Jr. in one of Robert Downey Jr.'s like most iconic pre-Iron Man roles.
One other we got to admit. Well, again, Little Blue brings up Willow. Yes, he was in Willow.
But Dragon. He was not the Willow.
No, he wasn't the Willow. Actually, I think he met his first wife on that movie. Anyway, the point being,
yeah, thank you, Little Blue. The Doors. That's another important one, and I remember seeing that like when I was in high school, going through my classic rock phase, and that I think that's another one of his like most transformative roles. Honestly, I think he really does nail that character.
Anyway, so yeah, the other one we got to mention, Heat. He was very good in Heat.
I've never seen Heat.
Well, it's on Netflix right now. You should watch Heat. It's a classic.
I should see it. I've never seen Tombstone either, which is another
Tombstone. That is like the definitive Val Kilmer movie. That is like the iconic. So that one's like
I need to check that out too.
People always say Top Gun and Tombstone are like the Val Kilmer movies, but again, Heat is like we don't get the interrogation scene from The Dark Knight without Heat. That's important.
Right.
Anyway, the last thing I'm going to say about Kilmer before we can talk about Kilmer for a while, but last time I saw him,
if we weren't so busy, we probably could have done a whole in memoriam on him.
That's true. It was very sudden too. So
yeah.
I believe it was pneumonia that got him too, because obviously he had it wasn't that he wasn't like dying from the condition that he had. He was just kind of perpetually just kind of in that state. But pneumonia, in an exposed state like he was, pneumonia was very, very potentially lethal, and presumably that's what happened there. But the last time I saw him, I think you also saw this too. Jay and Silent Bob reboot. He showed up as like one of the 3 Batman we had in that movie.
Of course, yeah.
And it was a delightful game. We put him in the suit. We made him Blunt Man. We made him like the BVS version of Blunt Man.
It
was great. And again, he got to play some great comedy too, where he basically did the intense.
I really do think he's an underrated actor when it comes to comedy, and I think his Bang Bang really proves that.
I mean, Kilmer was really funny, and he loved comedy. I guess the last thing we should mention, the last role that he did, period, when he was the last speaking role that he did that meant the world to him, was theater. He did Mark Twain on that traveling. He put everything he had into playing Mark Twain. In terms of he spent a lot of money just to put on that one man show, and it was the last thing. Again, he was like, it was his passion project for years, and he was able to do it before everything kind of stopped for him. So
sure.
All right.
Okay. I'm gonna try and go through some of these comments. Maybe not gonna get to all of them. Colby says, can't stay for too long, but popping to say hello. Can't wait to watch later. R.I.P. Val Kilmer. Colby says, Kokia says, for years I've been feeling like Kilmer's an underrated Batman actor. I think that he had a handsome leading man charm of Bruce Wayne. Indeed.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. He says, Kogia says he would put Kilmer's Batman ahead of the Batman actors that came afterwards. It's like I definitely think you can make an argument for him being better than Bale. I for sure think you can make an argument for him being better than Ben Affleck. I mean, that's pretty. There's no real comparison there. I definitely think he's better than Affleck. Pattinson, I think, is an acquired taste, but I definitely lean Pattinson. But
again, right now Pattinson's unfinished, though.
Right. So it obviously, I think Kilmer's got the Bruce Wayne side down better than Pattinson. But again, I feel like the whole point of Pattinson in that first movie is
I know. Which again, we don't know. We won't know until we eventually get a Batman sequel. We won't really know that.
Oh man! All right.
Again, it's like the Man of Steel contingent thing. This might be a good idea if the next one.
What do you think? Weigh in on this: Chase Meridian or Rachel Dawes?
I mean,
I would personally vote Rachel Dawes just because I think she actually is like more fleshed out as an actual character, and Chase Meridian is pretty much just eye candy.
I mean, look, Rachel Dawes, because you had combined two different
Rachel
performances.
Dawes isn't a great character, but she's a character, you know.
I mean, look, I like what we do with Rachel Dawes, like her role in Batman Begins. I find to be, you know, again, the whole childhood friend, like she's there during the. I know I like.
I don't like the fact that she gets fridged, but it is an effective fridging as far as completing the character's emotional arc.
Plus, it was like part of a triangle and stuff. It all kind of, I don't know. Anyway.
Goki, yes, I will give you like.
Why don't justify that comment? Why?
No, I'm justifying Batman and Robin, Batman Forever over Batman and Robin. I can see that. Mask of the Phantasm, absolutely not. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, and just Little Blue kind of just clarified some stuff. Little Blue says Kilmer's last Instagram post was him wearing a Batman mask. That's definitely touching. All right, so Dragon, let's move on. We also lost a legend in the voice acting realm. We lost the one and only Mr. George Lowe. So Dragon, I have a really sentimental attachment to this guy's voice. I was a very young child when I was introduced to Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I didn't know, like, my dad, I must have been like 4 or 5 years old, and my dad was like trying to explain to me like what the original show was. And honestly, obviously we look back at the original show now and it's lame as shit, right? But my dad, like, he was that target audience, and he grew up in the 60s. He was like the prime demographic for original Space Ghost. So he's telling me about all this shit, and it sounded awesome. And so I loved the idea of kind of like taking the piss out of this frankly really epic sounding show. And honestly, Dragon, we got a little bit of a taste of what an epic and cool Space Ghost would be like via Chris.R. Notarelli and his fan film. So the Hanna-Barbera cartoon notwithstanding, I love the idea of Coast to Coast. I think George Lowe just had just a perfect, like, his voice is just smooth as butter. It's just the perfect broadcasting voice, but at the same time, he got playful with it. He just understood Space Ghost's sarcasm, the whole like this, like, what am I doing? I'm an intergalactic superhero, and now I'm sitting here interviewing D-list celebrities. Like, I know there's just so much there's so much nuance to his performance just as a talk show host, just based on like the premise alone. I just think Space Ghost Coast to Coast, I haven't talked about it enough. I really do like highly revere it. It's like like I said, I was a young child when it was first coming out, obviously in like the pre-Adult Swim days, but I definitely appreciated it even back then, even though even if I didn't really know the celebrities or even like what the format of the talk show was supposed to be making fun of. But I digress. What say you, Dragon? I'm sorry, I kind of took that over a little bit.
Right. Well, also, always the fun thing with Coast to Coast is he did sit down with Conan.
He did, yeah.
I knew about Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and I watched a little bit of it, so there's always an intrigue there, and honestly, it was my go-to thought with Space Ghost. So this guy is very synonymous with, it's basically this guy and Gary Owens, like that's Space Ghost, Like you have like the actual, again, the fact is this guy, he basically, George Lowe, very seamlessly, he honored the character, and that the character sounds like, Gary Owens.
Right.
But again,
it sounds like a Gary Owens who's just kind of done with this shit. That's the
exactly. So it's basically what if we took Gary Owens and we did kind of the Casey Kasem outtake.
Right. Yeah.
You remember the Casey Kasem outtake?
Yeah, I do.
So upset over the dedication to the dog.
Oh man.
So that's essentially that's kind of what he's playing, in Coast to Coast, and it was great. And it's so rarely do we have a definitive parody like take on a character that just that puts the other one in its own shadow. It's crazy. Yeah.
All right, and lastly we have Clive Revel.
Revel. I'm
I'm sorry. Dragon, this guy, you might be able to speak to some of his other stuff, but he was most known as the original Emperor Palpatine in the Empire Strikes Back. I'm sorry. Obviously pre Ian McDermott, pre special editions and everything, the spooky mask guy, if you will.
Yes, so Clive Revel, Shakespearean trained actor, also did a lot of narration work. So with that, his voiceover work was kind of legendary in a sense. That's what I would kind of distill Clive Revel down as. This guy was the prototype for greatness. And that's not to say that he was replaced by betters, but that's just to say that this guy, he is. We don't have what we have without him, kind of laying the groundwork. He was the original Emperor from Star Wars, and that the Emperor in the original version of Empire Strikes Back, they weren't really sure, and they wanted to make him like haunting and creepy. So it was kind of a combination of elements. Essentially, I want to say chimpanzee's eyes, old lady's face, and Clive Revel's voice.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Essentially, it was that kind of, and again, the fact that he was kind of like a video call, essentially, really helped just making him.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, so the point being, the original version of the Emperor. But for me, my big takeaway with Revel was he was the original Alfred from Batman the Animated Series.
Oh yeah, there we go. I always forget about that, but yeah, he was great. I mean, Dragon, as you always remember, probably. I was very taken with him, and I was actually kind of disappointed that we got so little of him as Alfred because I thought he did a great job with it.
I want to be clear. Okay, so he voiced Alfred in the first 3 episodes of Batman the Animated Series, not because he wasn't good. It was because, again, being the Shakespearean actor that he was, he had was it summer stock or what? That they did summer stock, and he was called away. He was doing the theater. He had to go. It was like a scheduling conflict, but again, kind of a blessing in disguise because then we get Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., who was like the Alfred.
Mm-hmm, of course.
But I want to make something clear. Every time we talk, I will always love Clive Revel's Alfred because 2 reasons. One, there's never been a bad Alfred. It's just kind of a cosmic law. It's an unwritten law.
I think we've gone over that quite a bit, but yes.
Yeah, it's like John Stewart.
The day that we get an Alfred that's just like actively the worst part of a Batman movie is going to be a dark day.
Well, I'm going to tell you something later in this podcast. There was an Alfred who, again, the Alfred was good.
Really?
We had a good Alfred, but we did something really bad with him.
Okay. I mean, All-Star Batman and Robin Alfred is kind of a bad Alfred.
Well, I don't know about that necessarily. That was a buff Alfred who was like, he was... Well, plus, regardless, even All-Star Batman, that's on the page though. That's not we're talking about performance and like being adapted.
Right.
Anyway, what was I? All right, so I will always be indebted and always be appreciative of the Clive Revel Alfred because of the 3 episodes that he did. He was in the Scarecrow episode, Nothing to Fear, the introduction of Scarecrow, which of course is like the iconic episode of Batman the Animated Series because that gives us the I am vengeance, I am the night, I am Batman line. But also, with as far as Alfred goes, I would attest that is like when we get the first kind of warmth from Alfred. That's where we get the wonderful moment of Batman confesses that he's having visions of his father, saying how disappointed he is in him. And Clive Revel's Alfred has this beautiful moment. He puts a hand on Bruce's shoulder and says, rubbish. I knew your father, and he'd be proud of you because. And I was like this little catch in his voice because I'm so proud of you. Now, chicken soup and off to bed. It's like this beautiful, this distillation of what is wonderful about Alfred, and then he really brought that to life. And again, lays the groundwork for why we would need an Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. And also was in Freakazoid for episode. He was in the Cloud episode of Freakazoid. He was the friendly guy that the chatty guy with the mustache that Freakazoid Spangler, the guy Freakazoid was talking with on the train, and we had the gag of like, you got a little boogie there, like he's the boogie guy. And when he in quotes died in Freakazoid, it was like he still got that boogie. All right,
Coke. Yes, I hear what you're saying with Andy Serkis Alfred. I think he's definitely the least established Alfred. I don't want to call him bad though, because again, with
he's not a bad Alfred.
Universe, we've just not seen a lot of him yet.
But he had really good look. I didn't like how Pattinson Batman was kicking him around as much as he did. I thought he was good.
Right.
That's not his fault that the Batman's abusing him. That's not his fault. That he's getting blown up and stuff. That's not his fault. He had some nice Alfred moments. Serkis is solid cat. I don't know. Anyway, Anyway.
All right. Teddy, I have not seen the trailer for the rehearsal season 2, but I definitely do plan on watching it, and I should watch that trailer. I know it's out there. Maybe on some level I'm kind of like not wanting to spoil myself on that. But yeah, I am excited for season 2 for sure. Especially because we've got a lot of great TV that's wrapping up. Like White Lotus is wrapping up. Yellow Jackets is wrapping up, so I'm going to need more shit to watch for sure.
Anyway, so on from death to the death of a dream.
Oh God, yes. Dragon, why don't you cover this one? Because you like I can kind of cover some of the more scandalous elements, but why don't you set it up?
Well, essentially, the Disney Plus Tiana show that was planned got the plug pulled. It was canceled. Presumably, it's in a similar situation where I want to say the show was finished, or at least almost like pretty much in the can, and then they say like, we're not going to release it. We're not.
I mean, I would bet money on the fact that this becomes like another like Moana 2 situation, frankly.
I mean, the way I heard is like it's just being shelved, period. But you might be right. I mean, I don't know. I'm saying I don't know how official is saying that it's like it's like
because by all intents and purposes, Dragon, I thought this thing was done.
Yeah, that's the thing. I thought it was. It sounds like it was done and in the can. They decided to pull it because of essentially. So Disney's made the decision, and kind of they wrote Pixar into it too. That basically they're avoiding streaming shows, and because of this,
a weird decision considering they literally just opened Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So
I know,
like, you would think they'd want to get some sort of cross synergy from that, out of all the things to cancel.
I know the voice actress is very disappointed by it. I mean, Tiana's.
Yeah, I bet, and out of all the cynical stuff to say about Disney these days, she's a gem. She's great.
I mean, Tiana was a cool character. I mean, I'm not saying I was like on the edge of my seat, like we got to see what's going to happen next with Tiana because we kind of said everything we need to say with the Princess and the Frog. But
frankly, I think Tiana's Bayou Adventure kind of proves that it really shouldn't have been a sequel to the movie. It should have been a retelling of the movie.
So that's the look. It's a question of I don't know how much of like this decision is maybe motivated by all the the Bayou Adventure stuff, or just period, just like the direction.
Or maybe it's kind of the inverse. Maybe they're seeing that Bayou Adventure is getting a little bit of a backlash. Not just disclaimer, I am not with the Save Splash Mountain crowd. I don't care about saving Song of the South. I do think that Song of the South was at the very least problematic to have in those parks. But just on its own, Tiana's Bayou Adventure hasn't gotten like the best reception. Like people, there's definitely some defenders that say it's really good. A lot of people say it's just kind of okay. Most people say it's not as good as Splash Mountain. So maybe the idea is they just kind of want to like not acknowledge it. I don't know. What do you think? Is it some sort of 4D chess move where it's like we're not going to acknowledge the thing that's a little bit like problematic already?
I think it was kind of like maybe a 3-strike.
Or maybe just mentioning Tiana already kind of like it'll just bring up the Song of the South discussion and they just want to move away from that.
But I think it's like a 3-strike thing, Tiki, where it's just this confluence of events that just were not in Tiana's favor, where it was like, for starters right now, they're getting really cagey about, this has been making some mistakes and they've been tackling things with, streaming shows between, how Moana 2 went down, which again, financially benefited them, but clearly the byproduct, which again, we'll get into, I'm sure. Between that and obviously all this, the win lose stuff and just I don't know, it just feels like in general they're backpedaling on the streaming shows, whether they're hemorrhaging money or not as well within that reason, I don't know, but
yeah,
between that and the bad press of Bayou Adventure, I mean, I'm sure it's making them maybe second guess things. It's very weird that they would have the completed product and not do it. Now it makes me wonder if they are gonna just release it to make a buck like they did with Moana 2.
I think they'll be, just to get it, like, I don't want to, obviously, Dragon, like, it's not a big surprise that I didn't like Moana 2.
Yeah, I had a feeling, but,
come on now. But, I think it would be a big mistake. I think, frankly, they should do, like, another Disney Toon situation. Like, I think they need to, like, not release these things under the fucking Walt Disney Animation Studios banner. That's by far the most offensive thing about Moana 2's existence.
Well, again, just hold off on that. Yeah.
but I'm serious. Like, just just revive Disney Toon Studios, dude. Seriously, that way they would have an avenue for this sort of stuff that's not offensive.
I mean, basically, just release it on Disney Plus as a movie there. I mean, or
Right,
something.
right. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate because it sounds like it. But then, what do you know? It was going to be still 2D, right?
You know what? I would hope so, but Tiana's Bayou Adventure, there's some screens that present very wonky 3D looking characters, so I don't know.
No.
I would hope that it would be 2D.
My presumption was it was 2D, but if it wasn't, then I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Anyway.
Okay, getting into some of the comments. Teddy says he agrees that every other character in Matt Reeves' Batman was done well, except for Alfred. I don't know. Again, I just don't think Alfred was given a lot to do in that movie. I don't think what he had was particularly bad, especially performance-wise. Okay. Okay, I'm not gonna get into the Batman arguments.
Yeah, just get to the relevant stuff.
Okay, I'm sorry. Kogi says I haven't finished Princess and the Frog, but I do love Keith David. Is the film any good?
Yes.
Keith David is by far the best part. It's not my favorite Disney movie. I think it's kind of like in the middle of the pack. I think the structure is a little wonky. Dragon, you seem more optimistic about it than I am.
I mean, I like Princess and the Frog. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you; it's not my top 10 by any stretch, but I think it's worth it. What else are you doing?
It's a fun little movie. It's definitely got some good moments to it, and Facilier is definitely a very memorable villain for sure.
It's not like Kogi. It's not like you have anything else going on. Get Princess and the Frog to watch it. Come on.
All right. I don't know about packaging Disney Plus Marvel shows into films. I think that, unless you want to just try and completely re-edit them, but I don't know. That sounds like it would muddy the waters.
We're already dealing with a lot of that right now, but right. I mean, essentially that's kind of what happened with the War Machine thing, but we're still seeing that not be done, so I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see how Ironheart turns out. I do not have a lot of faith in Ironheart.
Yeah.
If Ironheart is not mid, I will be genuinely shocked.
All right.
Anyways, okay, Dragon. So yeah, I'm sorry. This is the scandalous thing. So why don't you go ahead and set this up, and I can get into some of the more scandalous elements of the story.
Okay. So, so there was basically a Kickstarter announced. Now, presumably, the project is going to be done either way because all the footage and everything's available. It's just that I think they're trying to polish it up and stuff. So it's a little unclear. It seems like it's going to be coming out regardless. So they're doing Stan Lee the final chapter. Now, essentially, there's a heartbreaking part of the wonderful story that is Stan Lee's life, and that is towards the end. There were a lot of claims in the last days of Stan Lee. It kind of came to light that there was a lot of elder abuse stuff that was going on in terms of a lot of financial manipulations, possibly some messy stuff with his daughter J.C. Lee. It was all very kind of secondhand. It was always kind of hard to pinpoint it down. Someone wrote a book essentially that this is not adapting a book. I'm saying there was a book written about the subject that I didn't have the guts to read. I always contemplated. I didn't read it. Mm-hmm. So the fact that around Stan Lee, you have these guys called body men. Now, body men are kind of they're kind of not bodyguards, but they're the kind of the guys holding the cash box at a convention that kind of help
essentially they're the more heavy duty version of a red shirt, right?
Essentially, they're the paid version of the red shirt.
Exactly.
The red shirts are volunteers traditionally. These guys are actually paid they're assistants and they help them out, but also sometimes managers and stuff. Sometimes, not always a guarantee, but usually it's somebody who's just hired to help them get from point A to point B. Traditionally, a body man is just is kind of a glorified bodyguard, but who's has a more of a guiding presence than doing what the guy says. He's supposed to ensure the comfort and everything. So the point being, one of these guys, I believe, is the filmmaker. He was around and filming during a lot of this, and he's the guy presenting the documentary. And essentially has all this actual archived footage of Stan Lee at the conventions and everything, and he sat down with a lot of the the comic creators, and like peers of Stan Lee, and this is what's selling me into watching it versus a subject I'm really kind of like I'm a little iffy about, because it's the idea that we're actually seeing Stan, what he went through, from like a first hand, kind of like a first hand or like a second hand perspective, but like right there in the moment. The fact is, it draws me is like I was there in those kind of that last like maybe like 5 to 7 year kind of window.
Mm-hmm.
Now I wasn't there towards the very end, which where things really got messy, which I'm sure the thing's probably going to get into. But what kind of chilled me is that
Like I've heard stuff like like he would be basically forced to do signings when he was just absolutely physically exhausted and just did not have it in him, shit like that.
So there's there's basically a little Kickstarter kind of like trailer teaser thing that's out that people can watch, and they show it. There's also like a little clip from it that's been circulating, and that clip kind of chilled me because I could be wrong, but I think I recognize one of the body men, not the one who's filming, but the other body man in question, the one with the dark hair. I'm pretty sure I've met that guy in person.
Oh, that's creepy.
I could be wrong. I mean, he could just look like him. I won't know until I really watch the movie to hopefully kind of click. But that's I'm definitely compelled to watch the movie, assuming it will be made available.
Okay, there's a couple problematic elements.
Yes, there's some ethically questionable aspects of
the two big ones are number one, the Kickstarter, like some of the Kickstarter goals specifically. Last time I checked, Dragon, which was a few weeks ago, so I don't know if this has changed, but like the biggest Kickstarter like reward, not goal, but reward, was that the guy, like the filmmaker in question, would take you on a tour to essentially see like where all this shitty stuff happened to Stan Lee, which I just think is kind of gross and morbid and exploitive a little bit.
I can't remember if it's how they go to Stan Lee's former residence or not, because if you go to his former residence,
it's more so just like see the boardrooms where Stan Lee got screwed over, see the Comic-Con halls where Stan Lee was, like forced to work even though he was very tired, stuff like that. It's just
very gauche.
Yeah, and then I think the bigger issue, and this one that it's kind of like a genuine controversy and kind of a legal sort of like gray area to say the least, is like this dude had this footage. He was basically holding on to it to make a profit instead of serving it over to the authorities, and that's kind of the big gray area,
Well, I mean, I could be wrong, Tiki, because here's the thing: I remembered in the final years before, well, basically, I want to say it was the year right before Stan's passing. There was a whirlwind going on. People were hearing that Stanley was he might have been being bullied. Like Kevin Smith offered him residence at his home. Like they heard what was going on. So I think it's a thing where I'm not the lawyer here. That's Rohit Dar, and he's not here right now. But it sounds like the person who the old person in question.
A great opportunity to bring in, okay, joining us as guest panelist, actual lawyer Rohit Dar. Rohit, weigh in on this.
So with elder law, I'm gonna take a leap that the elder has to, again, it all boils down to the elder having to make the claim, and I don't think Stan, especially if his daughter was involved, I don't think he wanted to make.
But I mean, I feel like that's the ambiguous thing, is that I feel like, was he even in his right mind to make the claim?
Yeah, but regardless. Again, the whole undue influence. Well, again, this is an undue influence, but you know what I mean. The whole competency, kind of
yeah.
Regardless of that, it's still a matter of this guy had the footage, and morally he could have spread the word, and used it, perhaps, or just showed leaked the proof, or something. Even if it wasn't making showing that this is what's happening to Stan, folks, we should help him out.
Right.
I don't know. It's a lot of murky territory. I don't think we're really gonna know the full extent. This guy. Here's the thing. Here's what troubles me about the Kickstarter, if you ask me. It's the fact that when I go to a Kickstarter, Tiki, and the reason I would donate to a Kickstarter if it was the only way to get a physical copy of the documentary. Now that was not at all an option on any of those Kickstarter tiers. It wasn't hey, get access, or hey, get the DVD of the movie. So that to me signals that we're going for a lot of perks that aren't really about the actual movie.
Right. And again, I feel like Kickstarter, that's one of the slippery slopes. We've seen that with if like Channel Awesome had some pretty infamously bad Kickstarter
Well, that
rewards.
was, I think that was like more Indiegogo or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe, but it's the same principle, the same basic idea.
True. That's true.
But
regardless, there's a big ethical question of like being able to film this. Some people have lobbed other things at like the filmmaker himself. Like, I don't know if they've said the word Zionist or whatnot. I don't know. I have no idea.
Right. I've heard that as well. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just at the very
be the most savory dude in the world, just generally speaking.
All I can say is that based on the fact that they're not saying like, it doesn't seem like if we don't reach our deadline, the movie's not coming. It sounds like this thing's coming out whether you like it or not. And if it's out and if it's an option,
Kickstarter is essentially just trying to squeeze some bucks out of it.
That's what it feels like. So
about it.
I hear the thing. If we didn't have like if we didn't have like the comic,
frankly, I think that all the profits of this thing should go to some sort of elder abuse charity. Honestly,
that's the thing. So if at the end of the day, if we didn't have the comic, we're sitting down with like Stanley's peers. If these guys weren't involved in the thing, I don't think I'd give it a watch. But that's why I'm interested to see, because I also met some of those guys. I want to know what they have to say about this guy sitting down like asking him. But basically, the idea is like they've come to learn about what happened to Stan. They might have some opinions, and being there firsthand, seeing him in the periphery, they might have something that I don't know. That's a wait and see, but it is very interesting. It's the only way I think I'm going to be able to watch, actually be able to stomach all the horrible stuff that happened to Stanley being presented in documentary forms. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We'll see, but it is absolutely it's as murky. It's murky as the deep blue, my friend.
All right. Okay. Well, this next news story is not murky at all. It's just stupid. Coco 2, Dragon, get ready. Oh boy.
Okay, so
this is so fucking dumb. The first movie, it's like, this might be the second worst Pixar movie to make a sequel out of, besides maybe Up. Maybe Up, like, post Ed Asner passing. This is so dumb. I can't even mix words about it, Dragon. This is so dumb.
So I was thinking of
Bug's Life is right there. I really want a Bug's Life sequel, Dragon. I want it.
You want me to tell you something that's going to make you sad about there not being a Bug's Life 2?
What?
Okay, so I believe I want to say it was one. I'm trying to remember which movie it was. I think it was for around the time of The Incredibles. No, not The Incredibles. It was the time. Anyway, sorry. During one of the Pixar movies that advertised, from the studio that brought you, Toy Story, brought you Toy Story, Monsters Inc., Nemo. So it was probably like for the.
Bug's Life was. I know A Bug's Life was the first one of the, the original Pixar movies.
Okay, wait, no, I remember. I remember now.
Off of those, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I remember now. So on they did a filmmakers round table for the Blu-ray release of A Bug's Life, right? Or the Blu-ray release of it, and during that they mentioned how like the Bug's Life crew felt really hurt that when they're by the time they're doing The Incredibles, so the studios that brought you this, and this, and Bug's Life never got mentioned, and it really bummed them out. So what they did is they did like kind of these like, I want to say like an anniversary every year practically they would do like this. They did like a party themed to Bug's Life, and they would have like they had scripts of A Bug's Life. They did like a dramatic reading of A Bug's Life. So they did like a drama, and they even had like Dave Foley like do a phone patch come in to play Flick, and they had John Ratzenberger there, and they do shots. It was like a party where they would just celebrate The Bug's Life getting shafted.
Oh God!
But again, they had like Joe Rampton on it too, or did like the dramatic Heimlich the Caterpillar performance. It was like a sad performance. Anyway, so Bug's Life 2 absolutely has always been on the table, but sadly it's just
I want to see it, if anything else, just to see what that animation upgrade would look like, Dragon. Else.
So I just want you to know, they feel the same way about it you do, that they want a Bug's Life 2. However, so here's the thing. This kind of solved the mystery with Coco 2. Adrian Molina, he was the director on Elio, and he left for another project, and this was revealed this was the other project. Lee Unkrich and Adrian Molina, they were the powerhouses on Coco, and then the sequel. So That's what he went off to do. So look, Adrian Miller must feel really confident for some reason. Either he feels really confident, or they were really okay. Look,
I just think this has like the Toy Story 4 thing of like you ended the original movie in such an emotionally like resonant way. It's just like, I don't know. I'm worried. Like, I think the one thing that this has going for it is the fact that the world of Coco is worth exploring, right? I think the thing I think the obstacle is the story. The obstacle is the fact that the characters are, by all intents and purposes, in their kind of like fully formed arcs. You know what I mean? That's the obstacle there. The world, I think you can explore more. It's just the characters that are the problem.
I mean, it's too Tiki. It just feels like. Look, I hate to sound like Captain Time Jump over here, but I'm gonna throw it out there.
Oh God!
It does feel like there's only two viable ways to do a sequel to Coco. One is, well, time jump. We can't have like we literally just can't tell the same story again, or just follow. Like, here's what happens right after with the ending of Coco with the Rivera family. It would have to be a grown-up Miguel with his own family. It's the only way that's potentially going to work. Emphasis on the potentially, but again, the only other way is that basically they use Coco as a brand thing, and really it's just like it's another story with the Land of the Dead.
Sure.
Only two ways you can tell that story, as far as I can possibly think about it, you know?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like I said, if anything else, I am excited to return to the world, because I remember seeing that movie like 4 times in theaters. Narratively, it's not the strongest movie that Pixar's ever done. It's strong narratively, but you know, there's a couple bits and pieces that are a little wonky as far as the storytelling goes. But just the world building in that movie is like, it's almost second to none as far as Pixar goes. It's up there with the likes of like WALL-E as far as like impressive world building. So I am looking forward to that element of it. I'm not gonna lie.
Between the world building and just in general, I mean, Coco sells. Coco is becoming like a very well-selling Pixar film these days in terms of merchandise. People love it. So I mean, again, we're at a point right now with Pixar where, with the sequels, it's really, especially Win or Lose and everything these days, it's feeling like Disney's putting a lot of pressure on Pixar to make certain movies. That's what it's feeling like, and that makes me feel concerned. So we'll, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, look, they got the original filmmakers back, and I mean, Lee Unkrich hasn't really steered us wrong.
That is definitely something that's in this film's corner.
But again, right now, it's a question of how much of it is like desperation. Please, Lee, you have to direct it.
Right.
Bring Adrian.
It's like a Peter Jackson Hobbit situation.
Like, is it a thing where they're just desperate? They're brought back out of desperation, or because there's a really good idea? Back in the day, I would say absolutely was a good idea. Andrew Stanton had a good idea for Dory, you know? And,
right.
Anyway.
All right.
Okay.
Joe Gios is saying, I think that a Bug's Life sequel would be hard because of the Kevin Spacey drama, and it wouldn't be worth it without him, in my opinion. I disagree, just because I think the world of Bugs is so huge that it really wouldn't be hard to come up with another memorable villain. I think you just leave out the grasshoppers. Unfortunately, that would mean leaving out Richard Kind, which would be kind of tragic.
Well, no, he can still. Remember, he's with the circus, so he can still be around.
No, I get that, but I kind of feel like
just a grasshopper. He's fine.
Right, but he is Hopper's brother, so
but Hopper's dead, and he's all happy now after he's dead.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, we could have kind of like a tongue-in-cheek, like, fuck that Hopper, am I right?
Hey, look, we killed Hopper off.
Piece of shit.
we killed Hopper, and we played with his corpse in that movie. Remember, we've turned one of his essentially his ear into a puppet.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think that would be a problem, and I like I said, I think the world of Bugs is so vast that it really would be pretty easy to come up with a creative new villain. Yeah, you know, get some new prominent celebrity voice actor in there.
I'm gonna throw this at you, Scorpion.
What?
Scorpion.
Yeah, something like that. Right.
Yeah, scorpions are scary.
Uh-huh.
Hey, a better idea. Okay, get a scorpion. And, we get Michael Landau to play him.
You know what? I was going to suggest, like, going against type and casting another Better Call Saul alum. going Patrick Fabian as the Scorpion.
Oh, okay. Look, that would be just for us. I mean, come on, if they're
No,
going to
it
do it.
would be. I don't know. I think he'd be. I think he'd be fun.
No, look. We can get him in there, but he can't play a Scorpion.
Right,
You gotta
fine.
play another intimidating bug. It's an intimidating bug, but not a Scorpion. That's too intimidating for Fabian.
Fine. Anyways, all right. Next,
Oh, he
up,
would be a wasp.
All right, we need to kind of like go through this news a little faster.
All right, fine.
All right, this one I know you don't really care too much about this one, so I'll kind of speed run through it. Sam Mendes. We've known about this for the Beatles. Basically, like all 4 Beatles members are getting their own biopic, and it's going to essentially be like a cinematic universe type thing. Sam Mendes has described it as essentially the first like in theater binge, which frankly I think Kevin Costner tried to do with the but that obviously did not work out. Dragon, what do you think of just the strike and the fact that all these are going to be? We'll go over the cast soon, but what do you think of just the structure? The fact that all 4 of these movies are going to be released in the same month.
Really? So it's not even just the same year. It's like just the same month.
No, it's the same month. April 2026.
I think that's. I think they're putting a lot of faith in Sam Mendes on that one. But I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I love the idea of like. Here's the thing. It feels very gutsy. It feels very bold to do like a bingeable series of biopics. It feels kind of like our dream come true though. So I'm intrigued. But like the cinematic universe of biopics.
I think if any subject matter, the Beatles is a good choice because like all 4 of those guys do have very like divergent plot lines if you really get into the history of the Beatles.
Presumably they're going to have the same cast though, being a cinematic universe, right?
Yes.
So I mean that's interesting, but the challenge is they're definitely going to have to not just tell the same story beats over again. Like they're 4 different movies.
I don't think that's gonna. I think with okay. So let's break down the cast here. We have Harris Dickinson is playing John Lennon. Paul Mescal is playing Paul McCartney. Joey Quinn is playing George Harrison, and of course, my personal favorite, Barry Keoghan, is playing Ringo. And I think that's just goddamn perfect casting right there. Dragon, I did go through a big Beatles phase in high school. I did kind of like absorb a lot of history, so like I could kind of break down like. I think Lennon's movie is going to be more about like the political side of the Beatles. It'll probably get into like the whole like Lennon saying that the Beatles are bigger than Jesus and that sort of thing. I think Paul McCartney, you can get more into kind of like Paul being like the pretty boy face of the Beatles. You can get into the Paul is dead conspiracy theories and that weird side of things. Like essentially, I think with Paul McCartney, you can get into kind of like the weirder, more troublesome parts of the fandom. George Harrison obviously has he's the one that was most transformed through, spiritualism and meditation. And he had that trip to India that totally transformed him and his musical output. I think George Harrison makes a lot of sense as far as like doing I think out of all 4 of them, he's the one whose story really diverges the most. And then Ringo is just Ringo, right? Like he's the adorable one that's kind of like the steadfast one of the bunch. And he's the most lovable one. So, like, I don't know. I think all 4 of these guys do have different divergent paths that you can tell their stories around. I don't think you're going to just be recycling the same scenes in all of them. Like, I definitely think there's going to be different points where we're probably going to be seeing, like for example, like, I imagine we'll probably see, like, the Sgt. Pepper album cover photo shoot in all of these movies, or the Let It Be sessions. We're definitely going to see the Let It Be sessions in all 4 of these movies, but we'll probably see different scenes from within these sessions. Anyways, Dragon, I'm sorry, I'm going off on like this is like Beatles knowledge from like literally like half my lifetime ago that I'm just like regurgitating out to you right now. I'm sorry.
All right. Okay, so more casting.
Mm-hmm.
So, Avengers Doomsday.
Yeah, so apparently, like, we're never going to just get new X-Men. That's my takeaway from this. And frankly, Dragon, I I am skeptical about this movie, to say the least. I have never been more skeptical about an Avengers movie.
Yeah, so the chairs was it was a choice, you know.
Yes.
The chair. Look, I love the idea Ant-Man has a small chair. Isn't that adorable? That's cute. But it's like it was a lot of chairs. This feels like, okay, look, obviously we can't put all the chairs on the stage, so it just feels like we're spacing them out really weirdly. Why can't the Fantastic Four just all be together? Like, why wouldn't we do that? I don't know. A lot of people are speculating. It's like we're saying something like maybe these characters will be killed off, maybe they won't. Maybe they're all like, again, we're announcing these characters,
I
but
think it's interesting. Like, we do have some heavy hitters that just aren't here, like Doctor Strange, Spider-Man. I think are two big examples.
So the big ones that are missing is off the top of my head. There's Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Hulk, Peggy Carter, Daredevil, and She-Hulk.
Dude, we're just like, I think at a certain point they're just going to pretend that Bruce Banner just doesn't exist anymore in this universe.
So the big theory, I mean, this is very solid in terms of how we get, especially with the X-Men being included here. Obviously, with the multiverse of war on the fringes there, we're probably having like multiverses and just other like variations of characters, such as the Fox X-Men versions of the X-Men.
But then also fucking Channing Tatum, so we're gonna go back to like the the Void universe.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So yeah.
So I mean, look, obviously we're missing there's no Deadpool.
My whole thing is that this cast list is so huge that it's like all of these people are going to be like cameos at best. Like, who is actually going to be the actual like core of this movie? You know what I mean? Like, I would hope it would maybe be like the Fantastic Four, perhaps, in the same way that like the Guardians of the Galaxy was the core of Infinity War.
Well, they have to be in the.
No, I don't think we have a hook here.
So the Fantastic Four, I mean, they have to be definitely at the core of this, at least this first part of it, because it's Doomsday, Doctor Doom, Fantastic Four.
Right.
You kind of have to. Now, did you see the How It Should Have Ended crew and how the video they did about this?
I did not.
It's really funny. We're basically. Oh god, yeah, it was really funny. We're basically Superman and Batman at the Super Cafe, like watching the announcement trailer, the full chair trailer together, and they was like commenting on it and just kind of making fun of it. And essentially it was this thing of like Superman saying, with every cast now, it's like, well, all these Thunderbolts are gonna live through their movie. Pretty much everyone but Taskmaster. Taskmaster seems to be the
only one. Right. No, I mean, I didn't see that particular, but I've definitely heard other people make that observation. Yeah.
So, that's the thing with like announcing all the people are going to be in the movie again, possibly variants and stuff that basically, even if they did die or whatever happens to them, they could show up here. I don't think anyone's going to die, frankly, but I don't know. It's really just kind of a nothing burger. Like pretty much everyone's going to be a big surprise. We know everyone's going to be in it. It feels interesting. We're going to say the X-Men without saying Deadpool, Wolverine, which that would be like the big gets. If you ask me, that would be the thing that's going to psych everyone up if we just like throw those guys in there along with the Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom.
But we can't just keep throwing Deadpool and Wolverine into everything to just have that be like the Band-Aid fix for all these.
No, I'm not saying it's a Band-Aid fix. I'm just saying in terms of like, hey, here's something kind of like exciting that we're going to throw in there. Like they're coming back and they're being there after they had a very well received movie. It just feels like everything else is like, here's just everything that's been on the slate so far. It doesn't feel like or for example, they throw like Charlie Cox in there, like, oh my god, we're putting him in a movie. That would be pretty exciting, wouldn't it?
Sure.
But or Spider-Man, who again is chances are he's going to be in there, especially Secret Wars, given the black costume of it all. It would make sense for him to be in that. I don't know. It just feels like a weird announcement. It just feels like, okay, well, a big surprise. Everyone's going to be back, and again, like we've heard other characters that are essentially confirmed, but they didn't get chairs, so now we're left questioning it. It just feels like we're, it's like it's kind of an uninteresting reveal of like you thought it was blue, but actually it was red.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of. So, not really much to take away from it. Just like, okay, Marvel characters are going to be in this movie. I'm so thrilled. Great.
All right.
I know all these characters, but here's the thing: I know all these characters are going to be in Secret Wars. I would stand the reason the way if they're doing a 2-part thing like last time, they would be in Doomsday, probably most of them, if not all.
Okay. All right, we're gonna speed run through the next two because there's not really a lot to really talk about with these. So we have a title for Spider-Man 4. Finally, it's Spider-Man: Brand New Day. Dragon, we finally dropped the home thing, which I'm very happy about. Do you think day is going to be the next word convention?
Well, given that we have Avengers Doomsday coming, maybe
That's true. Yeah.
either day or new. Those are going to be probably like the
I like the title enough. I think it sounds good.
Well, you know why they use that title, don't you?
No.
Well, I think so. After they did the Mephisto thing and the whole One More Day, they did Brand New
Okay,
Day. That
that
was the
makes
rebrand.
sense. Yeah.
So it does make a lot of. I think the title is great, and it does make me think that Martin Lee's going to be our bad guy. If we don't do the Kingpin, it feels like it's going to be Martin Lee.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be Mr. Negative.
I feel like that's what I've been hearing is just those two are kind of the biggest options, I think.
I mean, look, Kingpin is the smart, cool option. Honestly, you could have both the Kingpin and Mr. Negative, frankly. I mean, I'd be
Mr.
so
Negative,
down.
he was a big player in the games.
Yeah,
right?
that's the thing. So he's got a fan base. And so Rohit made a very solid argument with Mr. Negative, and with this title is the story that he at first appeared in. So it would stand to reason Mr. Negative would be an all. And if they're smart, we'd have a street level Mr. Negative story, which would also incorporate the Kingpin as his rival, which I'm so sold on that movie. Like, Okay.
All right. So Coyote versus Acme, saved by Ketchup Entertainment. We'll talk about the day the Earth blew up later, but let's just say Ketchup Entertainment is kind of like the savior of animation right now, just in general. Very, very good news. Not a lot more to say about that.
Just great. They saved the Tiki.
Yeah.
We saved the clock tower.
Dude. Fucking like multi-year ordeal, but thank God.
Yep.
All right. Finally, let's get to some trailers. Lilo and Stitch, Dragon. I mean, not a lot to say. I don't think this is gonna be like a great movie by any means, but I think by all intents and purposes, like this looks better than the remakes we've been getting. I like that it's not just a shot-by-shot remake. I like that there's some things that they're changing up. I think that the actress that they got for Lilo is acceptable, is like a precocious little kid who's actually acting like a little kid. I don't know. I think it looks fine. I'm not like jumping up and down excited about it, but I probably will go see it in theaters on like Snow White. What do you think?
I think it's the Tiki and Dragon dilemma, which is ironic given the same filmmakers were involved in.
I know, right?
And honestly, are also kind of involved in both, if you depending on how you look at it. Dean DeBlois, Dean DeBlois, he's involved very, very at the helm of Tiki and Dragon, and Chris Sanders is doing the voice of the principal character, so they're both highly involved. It's I mean, look, this I respect because it's a good faith attempt, and it has a solid. I love the director we have on this. But again, it's just at the end of the day, even if they do a great job.
Remind me who the director is. I'm sorry.
I'm blank. Look, I know he's the guy who did Marcel the Show with shoes on.
Okay, cool.
So we have a really good director.
Yeah.
Point being,
I mean, I hope it's like it could very easily just be a situation where Disney pulls a talented like director and then it's like, here, make studio crap.
Yeah. All the same. Very at the end of the day, even if we do a really good job on this movie, it's going to be the self-defeating. Like, what's the point? It's not going to beat the original. We know it's not going to beat the original. That's the whole reason people are going to this.
It can't. So, I mean, for me, especially, it's like the original had such a big emotional impact on me. There's no way. There's just no way.
We had watercolors and Alan Silvestri. How do you top that?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I'm relieved to see Cobra Bubbles. I still hope that we're last I heard it was going to be.
What do you think of Cobra Bubbles with a mustache?
He still looks cool.
I think he looks cool. I think it's fine.
That's what I'm saying. Courtney B. Vance is pretty solid for Cobra. I don't see why we couldn't have just gotten Ving Rhames, just made Cobra Bubbles older. I don't see why we couldn't have done that. But still, Courtney B. Vance. I loved him in People versus O.J. Simpson. So that's pretty solid. Regardless, it does feel. I'd really hope. I heard it was going to be a thing where Cobra Bubbles will just be purely like a government agent. Then we would have we might lose the social worker thing, which is going to bum me out if we do that. So I hope that doesn't come to fruition, but we'll see. The whole cloaking of Jumba and Pleakley, I think it's like yes, it makes sense, but it's like where's the fun in that though?
I don't care if it means that we have less Uncanny Valley CGI. Frankly,
yeah, no, I'm not saying it's a deal breaker. I'm just saying it's just yet another reason of why bother. Now, here's the one thing I do want to say though: we are getting fun Stitch comedy, which is new stuff. It's like stuff that feels like, okay, this is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Stitch is one of those things. Stitch is such a likable character, such a fun character, so you can put him in many situations and it'll still be at least watchable and entertaining, at least be worth it. This would be worth it. I wouldn't go out. I don't know if I go out to theaters to see this, but I would definitely watch it immediately when it comes to Disney Plus because of the Stitch of it all.
Mhm.
Also, last little nitpick: why change the ice cream guy to a snow cone? It's just like literally of all the simple things. I'm not even talking
Yeah.
about the look. All right, it's just why a snow cone?
All right. All right.
Anyway,
Okay. So Elio, I think this trailer definitely it's different for sure. It definitely I could tell that they changed directors. I agree with you there. Look, I think that focusing more on the character stuff instead of the general setup of oh, he's lying about being the president of Earth or whatever. I think the first trailer, frankly, was one of the worst trailers that Disney's ever put out, or Pixar's ever put out, I should say. It did not, especially as a teaser trailer, it did not sell me. I think this looks okay. I like the fact that it looks like Brad Garrett is pretty pivotal here. I'm really looking forward to seeing Brad Garrett get a big role in a Pixar movie again. That kind of is the big takeaway for this, if anything else.
yeah. So we have Madeline Sharafian. So Sharafian was the one who did the Burrow short from the Spark shorts. Remember? So
Yeah,
it's her and Dome Shi. They're basically the lead directors on this now. So yeah, it's very different. It's very different from the teaser trailer that we got. And I mean, look, I think both movies are interesting, but there are elements I still liked from the original that it feels like we're that sucked me in. And before the misunderstanding comedy take, which yes, I mean I know it didn't grab me, but I'm saying think about the sad yes Earth. I mean, the moment. Here's the moment that we lose is going between the two things. Here is the whole thing of the sad kid trying to call. Essentially, what they changed the mom to aunt, by the way, which is kind of a weird point.
Oh, that's weird.
That's what I'm saying. These are the choices that are making me wonder, the direction we're going. It was the kid calling his mom. We can't make time of day for him because she's looking at aliens, and he's saying, okay, the sad moment the kid alone is probably bullied or something. That's the thing that we lost. That I'm kind of I'm wondering if we're gonna be able to top that.
Sure.
And again, Brad Garrett, he was going to be a supporting character.
Dropping the mom plot line, though, you got to admit, it does kind of associate it less with fucking Mars Needs Moms.
It does, and I don't know if that was the move or not. I don't know. But yeah, Brad Garrett's Grygon, the character. So it took him from kind of a supporting character to a villain, which I mean, again, Brad Garrett in a big pivotal role. I'm with you.
But I think he's going to be a villain where he's going to be a sympathetic villain who goes through an arc. I have a feeling it's not going to be ooh, big bad Brad Garrett. You know what I mean?
I guess the thing is Elio seemed like a movie that didn't have an antagonist, where now it does, and I'm not saying either couldn't work, but it just feels like it's a big swing, is what I'm saying. It's now we turn this side character into the villain. It feels very much that's a big change. I hope it works out. And the whole it seems like we completely added the kid side, the kid friend plotline, the Lorden thing. That seems completely new and added on. I'm not sure. Seems fun though. I like the kid. I mean, the whole it's a much more fun, upbeat movie than it seemed to have been before. But I don't know. Okay.
So apparently a fucking new Superman trailer literally just dropped.
Yeah, but that was footage, though, that we don't need to talk about.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I mean, look, I kind of want to watch it. It's literally a scene from the movie. I don't want to watch it before I see the movie. So it's just,
Got it. Okay. One battle after another. This is the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. Leo just looks unhinged and fun as hell, and I can't wait. I think one of the biggest elements of this movie that I'm excited for is, for the first time since Punch Drunk Love, which is my absolute favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie, it's set in the modern day. So, Dragon, I know Paul Thomas Anderson is probably not your thing, but is this catching your interest at all, the Leo of it?
I mean, this is going to sound really silly. I love the editing at the very end of the trailer with the rug.
Oh, I do too. I really do too. It's so fun.
It was a perfect take on that rug.
Right, right.
But I mean, look, I'm interested. If I read it right, the premise seems to be we have like an ex-militia guy trying to save his daughter, and that seems kind of like
Uh-huh.
adding layers to the crazy militias. That I think is an interesting premise. But that's all I really get from that teaser. So
I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson movies aren't usually about the plot. The plot is usually just kind of like window dressing for character stuff, and I think this movie clearly does have a lot of character stuff going on. So
yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. All right, the
Okay.
Naked Gun Dragon. This is more your thing, dude. I haven't even seen the first Naked Gun movies. I'm not a big Liam Neeson guy. I did not like the humor in this. I thought some of the humor, that the OJ joke, was tasteless. I don't know what. Why are we talking about this?
I mean, look, one, I love the Naked Gun movies. Okay, two is this is like a thing that I've kind of seen this thing grow into fruition. Like literally, Seth MacFarlane just joked about it one time, and now it's actually become real. And there's just all the events of like he's gotten to work with Liam Neeson. He always like joked like, oh man, imagine if they would like remake Naked Gun with Liam Neeson. And he was able to will it into existence. And I'm just kind of marveling at it, frankly. And I don't know the humor. I like the OJ joke at the end, where it's like the fact of like if you're gonna remake that, if you're gonna like do a sequel and or remake of the reboot of the Naked Gun, and we're making a joke out of the whole like the cop's father thing. We have like it's like Norbert's father based on real events. We would have to address that, and that just feels really
Right.
funny. I don't know. It's a very brief teaser. It's I don't know. It just kind of sets the tone. It could go. Here's the thing. I'm looking at it, hoping it'll be funny at least, but there is a chance it could go into the scary movie terms of parody. For example, Angie Tribeca, when they did that show a while back, that was made in the hopes of being like Naked Gun, which I think at least there was an attempt there. I don't think it fully hit the bell they were hoping it would, but at least you could see the effort that was put into that. I'm hoping that's kind of where they're going with this, but with a feature budget. Now, worst case, it's Scary Movie, which is basically them trying to it's copy of like what the Zucker brothers did with Airplane, Naked Gun, and so on and so forth. So could go either way. Just want to get a reaction. That's all.
All right. Megan 2.0. Dragon, honestly, I liked the original Megan. I didn't love it at all, but I liked it. It was fun. I think this looks pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. I think this trailer really, really sold me. I love the whole idea that this movie is essentially Terminator 2. I love Megan being kind of like the AI sort of like like Siri kind of device trapped in the screen, and then her making the bargain to upgrade her into a body. Like, I don't know, man. I'm pretty sold on this. I know that this is not your type of movie, but do you at least appreciate the creativity here?
I really do like the gimmick of the Megan. The Megan. What would you call Megan exactly? Just like
Mithrigan?
well, no, not the name. But I mean, besides Mithrigan, like what is she? Like she just an AI? Is she like
She's like basically a super doll.
okay? I love the idea of kind of the super doll, if you will.
Uh-huh.
Being like her imperative is to protect the girl, but it's like will easily sell out the mother. Like just like yeah, you can kill her, it's fine.
And that was the dynamic in the first movie, and I love that we're kind of pretty much keeping that intact.
So that to me did seem fun. I will give it
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Not really my bag, but it was.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. I think this is going to be a really fun time. I really like that they're leaning into the Terminator 2 thing.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, and finally, holy shit, we are I think this might be like one of the longest news segments we've ever had, but we are finally to March 2025 movies. All right, Dragon, let's get things started with Novocaine. Second Jack Quaid movie of the year for me, and I am just more and more sold on this guy. Like, I really think this guy's got some emerging movie star potential. I liked this a lot, Dragon. I didn't love it. I thought some of the I basically didn't really like the villain that much. I thought the villain was like serviceable at best, but I really didn't think they added much. But I did really enjoy the premise. I did think that they did a really good job with kind of like exploring what you can do with the premise of a guy that doesn't feel pain in an action movie context. They got a lot of mileage out of that. I think, again, Jack Quaid is just a very likable actor. He's definitely got some screen charisma to him. So, yeah, I enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah, so I saw this as well.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so again, it feels like each decade kind of has that action movie that just keeps getting remade with a twist. You have Die Hard, with like speed and everything. Like it's Die Hard on a bus, it's Die Hard on this, it's Die Hard on that. John Wick, as you famously have pointed out many times,
Right.
It's John Wick at Christmas. It's so. And this to me, now I know this is kind of a weird connective issue because this is kind of like a John Wick that then became its own thing. I would argue with this. You have Nobody. I think without Nobody, you don't get like the opening for a Novocaine.
Well, Nobody is essentially like John Wick as an everyman, and now we're kind of having like Everyman, and the upcoming The Amateur is very much in that realm as well.
That's what I'm saying. I like that work. So Nobody is kind of like, again, is like the removed John Wick is then spinning off into these other, like it's allowing like the off the beaten path action movie, which I like that we're making the action movie now, but we're being referential without being like, okay, we're just remaking the same movie again. It just feels like we're in the vein, like we have the leeway to be offbeat, and this is what we're doing with it. So I enjoyed this, not as much as Nobody or something like Bullet Train, frankly.
Right.
I love Jack Quaid in it, and he's the lovable everyman who is getting thrust into this action movie, and I love how he's so pleasant, yet having to go full Jack Bauer.
You know what my favorite element of this movie is the fact that like they don't make his condition a superpower. Like we actually get to see like how it would be debilitating. Like
I mean the whole pie thing.
I really like the fact that we took the time to like showcase that.
I love the thing with the pie just struck me so much. Just the idea, oh my god, he has to stick with the milkshakes because he could accidentally chew his tongue off. Like, oh my god,
right.
That would be horrifying, and I love that.
Like timers to go to the bathroom, the blockers to stop the shower from getting. Like, I love that sort of setup. I feel like that kind of elevates the movie a lot for me. I think.
So, honestly, Tiki, I think the opening setup of the movie really impressed me with the fact that we're dedicating a lot of time to showing how his world works and also like selling us on the love story. I was really sold on the love story, frankly. And again, I just love that we
the one thing I will say with the love story is that I wasn't crazy about the twist. I think it's fine. I do like the ending bit with her in the jail. I think it's kind of adorable.
Yeah.
But honestly, like I don't know. It kind of like I don't really think we needed her to be in on the bank job, frankly.
No, I'm with you. Okay, it's just the twist again until we get to the end point where it's like.
I think the actual villain is kind of weak sauce. I don't really think he has that much screen presence to him.
I do love the meta gag though. That okay, so we have basically our hero and our in quote villain here. Well, again, our villain who could have been better, but our villain, they're both the sons of iconic actors. Think about it. You have Jack Quaid, son of Dennis Quaid, and then you have the son of Jack Nicholson as the bad guy.
I didn't even know that was the son of Jack Nicholson.
That's Ray Nicholson. If you look at it, the way he smiles, like that's Jack Nicholson.
Okay, yeah, I had no idea. That's funny.
So that's kind of interesting to me. But you're right though. Aside from that, just that little tidbit though, you're right. Doesn't have a lot. Here's the problem I have with that character. Okay, the villain, he's too unkillable. I know it feels like we're trying to say like that's how we measure up to the guy who can't feel pain with the guy he keeps getting back. It just feels like unrealistic. We have a very realistic take on a SEPA affected character, So that was the big buy I have. That was like pure action. But like, how does this guy keep getting back? I don't buy that at all. The other guy we now he's putting adrenaline in him and he's doing like the move from the Batman. That I get.
Right.
So I thought there was a lot to enjoy about this. I would definitely rewatch it.
I'd give it like a solid 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. That's fair,
Yeah.
It was enjoyable. It was a good watch.
All right, but Dragon, holy shit! Let's take it up a notch. The day the Earth blew up. I don't even know where to start with this thing, man. This thing's fucking magic. It's a miracle of a movie. I'm so glad I got to see it in theaters. I'm sorry, I don't mean to rub it in. Dragon, this is like, I imagine that seeing something like this in theaters is essentially like the same feeling that the people that got to see something like Mask of the Phantasm or the Iron Giant got to see in theaters. Like, there is so much like Cartoon Network theater vibes, like Cats Don't Dance, like that sort of like old school Warner Brothers animation vibe to this movie, and I love it. Essentially, Dragon, it's just Porky, Daffy, and Petunia. Like, you don't even really get cameos from any of the other Looney Tunes, and I think that is for the best. Although, granted, I would have loved to see Marvin the Martian in a post credits. I admit, I think that was the one missed opportunity as far as cameos go. Since this is an alien invasion movie, I feel like Marvin the Martian should have popped up somewhere. But Dragon, we get to see Porky and Daffy as surrogate brothers, and it's engaging as hell, man. It really is. Like, the character work in this movie is awesome. They go through a great arc. The humor in this movie is so on point. Dragon, I have 2 words for you, okay? And I want you to remember these words, all right? Farmer Jim.
Farmer Jim.
Remember Farmer Jim.
Okay.
Farmer Jim is like goddamn one of the most funny characters. You'll know immediately. He pops up he's essentially Daffy and Porky's surrogate father.
Wait, Tiki, do you mean they're not biological father?
He is very much that, yes. Dragon, I don't want to give it away. I want you to find out for yourself. But how they animate this character is amazing. It's a gag in its own right. There is so much to say about this one character. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think, oh God, I could just keep going. I think all the human characters in this movie have such like an Animaniacs level of like caricature to them. I adore their designs. I truly do. There's just a lot. This thing is an opus, okay? It really is. It's everything that I wanted it to be. It's one of the best Looney Tunes products we've ever had, period. I think this movie has, hands down, Dragon, the definitive Daffy Duck moment that has ever been put to film. The definitive Daffy Duck moment. I can't wait for you to see this thing, man. I can't wait.
Believe me, I definitely would have liked to have seen it, but unfortunately,
it's so good. Yeah,
March was not a good month for me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. All right, that's all I got. Okay, next up, Dragon, tell us about the Electric State.
Yes, so this was the Russo brothers. So it was the Russo brothers and the Cap and basically the End Game Infinity War writers. Working on this. Everyone got back together. Even Alan Silvestri. They all pretty much got the band back together. A number of Marvel stars to adapt the book, The Electric State, which basically is kind of an alternate 1990s kind of dystopian setting. So here's the thing. I like this, and I know the critics are lambast. I know no one likes. I get it. All right.
I've heard some people say that the critics are too harsh on it.
I think so too. I know it's not Yates. I get it. I found it enjoyable. I really liked it. Again, even when listening to the critics, I'm not really hearing anything of substance, like what's wrong with it outside of like, okay, look, it's. We're doing the dimming light on the action. I get it. All right, that's not good. I understand that, but still, there was an effort put into this thing. I thought there was an effort put into it. It's a lot better than Gray Man.
The character designs, just from the stills I've seen, look pretty cool.
Yeah, look, I think the premise and the sell of the movie really works. Which, again, from what I understand, the fans of the book were probably justified. Like, I haven't read the book; it sounds like they deviate a lot from it. That's possible. I don't know. I think it's better than Gray Man, the last attempt the Russo brothers did. I like the sell.
That thing was a pretty infamously floppy mess.
So I think a lot of people are just like saying it's another Gray Man. No, it's not another Gray Man. Okay, this is like So the sell of this, it's like a very Wall-E-esque kind of starting point where it's like it's like a warning of the future if we become too reliant on technology and the rise of AI and that kind of stuff. I for example, Tiki, they basically tie the fall of kind of the big status quo change where basically the robots rise up to Walt Disney. Walt Disney's animatronics did it,
Oh, nice, nice.
which is really cool. Like
Yeah, that's cool.
we show Walt, and that's like the world building. Basically, Walt Disney was kind of the beginnings of it, and then it just kind of went from there. And then the robots kind of eventually they were subservient and developed kind of
So
like they
basically, they kind of went all the way with the idea of audio animatronics in the Tomorrowland movie.
Yeah, I mean, literally,
Uh,
one of our principal characters is Cosmo. Cosmo is basically like the main kind of robot character that you see, and basically he's voiced by Alan Tudyk. But Alan Tudyk basically he was like the Mickey Mouse mascot of like a cartoon show, and basically like all of his audio is like basically like only lines from the cartoon that we see. It's Alan Tudyk.
uh-huh.
And essentially, the girl. So Millie Bobby Brown's our main character, and basically her brother seemingly was killed, and his spirit is some. Well, it's not literally a spirit, but essentially he's transferring his consciousness in a practical way we see later in the movie. He's transferring his consciousness into the Alan Tudyk Cosmo robot to basically guide his sister to save his body. That's essentially the premise, and it's an adventure, and then she gets like the Chris Pratt character roped into it, and they go to find the brother. So it's pretty straightforward in terms of like we're just trying to save the brother. I will say the only real issue I have with the movie is that it feels like we see flashes of her and the brother, but I think we need to strengthen that relationship to really get on the whole we got to save the brother plot. So I think that's like that to me is the weakness of the movie. But there's a lot of stuff that's in its favor. The biggest thing in its favor for me personally, Stanley Tucci as basically an evil Steve Jobs, and I love it.
Ooh, oh man, damn.
Tucci from the
Would've led
start
with
is like
that.
awesome. Like Tucci's basically playing like again, it's like
I mean, when is Tucci not great, dude? Seriously, he's one of those actors where he elevates everything.
well, that's the thing. That's like you have like the Captain America guys on this, and they love Tucci. So they, the
Uh-huh.
writers on the first Avenger who love, and Tucci loved working on First Avenger, by the way. So just getting him in on this and having him play just this businessman who's just very just so again he's pretty much like a pro again it's yet another audition for Jeffrey Katzenberg, but yeah he's I don't know. Regardless, I thought
Right.
another audition for me. I think he did a really great job. Again, Chris Pratt he plays Keats, and we have Anthony Mackie as his robot sidekick Herman, which is kind of fun. There's I had very grounded expectations with this. Okay, like I said, I think the brother sister relationship could have been stronger, but I don't know. It just feels like we can't enjoy something simple these days, and it's being boiled down by look at the money they spent. It has to be nothing but perfect. I mean, yes, they spent a lot of money on.
Well, I think that's a fair criticism in general, and honestly, Dragon, I think we are getting to a point where there is a shift happening in Hollywood where more respect is being given to films that have a smaller budget.
Look,
So,
I'm with you. I appreciate a small budget on a movie. I get that, but what I'm
uh-huh.
saying is, while I do feel we should have done more practical effects with the robots, I want to say the effects look good. Okay, the effects look good, but in terms of like the money that they shelled out for this thing, it feels like we more practical wouldn't have hurt. Look, the smaller budget stuff does deliver really good results, and we need more of it. But I don't know. Still, like for a movie of like, okay, we're gonna have like a lot of robots, and we're gonna have a lot of IPs with the like. For example, Woody Harrelson plays Mr. Peanut as a sentient robot.
Oh god.
Which I mean, it's pretty cool because they play him like a president. It's like kind of like a civil war between robots and humans, and it's like I don't
Mhm.
know. I felt there was a lot to enjoy, and even if it's not great, I think people have been really harsh on this one. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was watchable. I mean,
It definitely sounds better than the Russo's like generic action movie slop that they've been putting out, which I have been very critical of.
yeah. I mean, at least I think this one at least had something to say. I don't know. I just felt like it had
Right.
something to say, even if it wasn't like
I might
everyone's
check this out. I'm not gonna lie. I might use the 1.5 speed feature, but I might check
okay.
it
Fair enough. Whatever.
out.
just do me a favor. Slow down Tucci scenes and then 1.5.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let's see. So for me, I have Mickey 17. This was on your most anticipated movie,
I'm jealous
right?
that you got this. I really wanted to see Mickey 17. That was my biggest
Oh
regret to
boy.
this one. No. No
This
good.
is the biggest disappointment of the year for me so far.
Really?
Just straight up.
I have one question before you get just one question.
Okay.
I'm desperate to know this. Did they use "Ain't That a Kickin' Head" at all in the movie?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, I knew it was a gamble, but I would have been so impressed if they found a way to use it in the movie. But go on.
So my big issue with this movie is that it's really messy. Dragon, Mark Ruffalo. Okay, remind me, you had an issue with Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things, right? You did not like him in Poor Things.
I don't think I had necessarily an issue with him in Poor Things. I mean, I thought, again, for the character that he was, we were on the same page, and we liked Mark.
Okay. I was just wondering because
I didn't like the movie at all, but I thought he was
right.
His performance was on
Mark
brand.
Ruffalo is aggressively awful in this movie. He's aggressively awful, and he takes up way too much screen time. He's essentially just like the most generic Orange Man bad Trump parody that you could think of, and
I've been hearing that.
And it's obnoxious. Dragon, you know how in the trailer they showcase that there's like all these different Mickeys running around?
Yep.
That's basically false advertising. Literally all those Mickeys except for the one that, that we see, like the main one, like Mickey 18, the new one.
Yeah.
Literally all the other ones are just in a montage.
Well, I figured that was going to happen. I knew they weren't going to be like they're walking around the whole movie. I just figured they're going to boil down to our main
whole
Mickeys.
thing is that I just don't think that we explore the idea of having different Mickeys. Like, I think Robert Pattinson is doing a good job. I mean, like, Robert Pattinson is one of those guys where it's like he's always going to be like on his A game. He's always going to be trying. I think Bong Joon-ho, like, I think the world building in this is solid. I just think the problem here is that the script is just very messy. Like, Steven Yeun has like there's like a kernel of a good idea with Steven Yeun's character is in that essentially he's like Mickey's would-be best friend, except he keeps screwing over Mickey at every opportunity. But that's literally all there is to the character, is that like he's just a jerk and he keeps screwing over Mickey, and there's no real resolution with that. The third act has to do with basically like those big roly-poly alien things that you see in the trailer.
Yeah, the pill bug things.
Yeah. I mean, they're cool designs, but the problem is that like almost like not even like third act, I want to say like even like halfway through the second act, they become like the central point of the movie, to the point where the movie just kind of like dissolves into this sort of like environmentalist sort of metaphor, and it just gets really messy, Dragon. It just gets really messy. The third act just really devolves into a series of nonsense. I mean, even freaking Toni Collette, who I usually love, she plays Mark Ruffalo's wife, and even she's obnoxious. Even she gets dragged down. I mean, this movie, it's just unpleasant. Generally speaking, this movie's just unpleasant, and it's over 2 hours long. I mean, I don't know, Dragon. I honestly do not think you'd enjoy this. Maybe you'd get more out of it than I would. Maybe the quirkiness of this thing would work better for you than it would for me. But I mean, by all intents and purposes, this is certainly a downgrade from Parasite, but I think this is one of the weakest movies that Bong Joon-ho has ever made, like, full stop. And I think this is like the perfect example. It's like a textbook example of a blank check movie where, like, like after something like Parasite, Bong Joon-ho just gets this huge budget to do whatever the fuck he wants, and the end result is just super messy and unfocused. So yeah, I'm pretty let down by this thing. I'm not going to mix.
Well, that depresses me. But we're just gonna
I'm sorry.
That's such a good. Already Agreement though had a really good trailer though, right?
It did have a good trailer. It absolutely did. Yeah.
That's a shame. All right.
This won't be the only movie this month that had a good trailer that disappointed me, Dragon.
Okay, so let me tell you about Plankton, the movie.
All right. Oh God, I dude, at this point, I literally can't even keep track of the SpongeBob movies. There's so many, it's ridiculous.
Well, neither can I. But look, obviously, a lot of love.
Remember when they had one SpongeBob movie and it was great?
Yeah, I remember. Okay, so I watched this for two reasons. One, I wanted to pad things out a little bit because I only had like two movies. Um, One movie's fell into my lap, which I'll get to after this. But anyway, the point being, I wanted to get one in there, and I look. Obviously, the Plankton movie was not on my I wasn't really intent. Okay, I'm not going to bother with this, but in desperate times, and the fact that of all the spin-off movies they're going to do, I do love Plankton. It's the idea that they're basically explaining the whole I went to college.
Is that what the setup is?
It's not the whole. Well,
Oh,
it's
God.
not. Sorry, it's not the. It's a big plot point, but it's not the setup. I heard that we paid off. I heard that we explained the whole.
They're really milking it, man. They're really just like anything that they can milk out of the SpongeBob series.
Okay, so in all seriousness, so one, it's still so weird that we're doing SpongeBob in CGI now in CG these days, but it's kind of like I guess it's like if I understand it right, it's cheaper than doing it hand drawn somehow, but whatever. I'm a sucker for Plankton, but also Doug Lawrence, and this feels like a tribute to all the hard work that Doug Lawrence is. Like he wrote this, he did the story on this, he wrote this. Obviously, he's the star in this, so this feels like a payoff. This feels like a nice look. While I'm definitely still of the mindset that SpongeBob really stops after the first movie, and after that, like maybe it's like a season or two, where it's like season 4 of SpongeBob's like it's all right, it's not wrong with that. But it's like we don't need it though. We did the ending. We don't need anything comes after that, and then 5 on where it's like okay, now we're in the iffy, too bad kind of category. But my point is, something like this feels like okay, we're trying to say or do a tribute. That's what I assume that's what they did with the Sandy Cheeks movie. They did as well. There's having fun.
By all intents and purposes, I've heard this is a lot better. This isn't great, but I've heard it's a lot better than the Sandy Cheeks movie. The Sandy Cheeks movie, I have heard, is like one of the worst things that SpongeBob has put out, bar none.
Well, regardless, it feels like the intent for these, and probably the more successful attempt is with Plankton. It feels like it's just like, okay, look, SpongeBob, he's a built-in industry. The voice actors, they love these characters. They love voicing, even if the material has, definitely gone off the reservation in terms of the quality that ever since Steven Hillenburg kind of like turned over the keys and then, uncoiled from the earthly plane. Things have just not been the same with SpongeBob. But you know what? Again, a guy like Doug Lawrence is a lifer. He was there from the beginning. He has something to maybe say about it. So if he's tasked with like do a Plankton movie, I think he did the best he could with it. Now, mind you, I don't think we need the musical component. That I could have done without. But the humor, again, nowhere near as good as Grade A SpongeBob, but it was had some jokes here and there. I liked the whole Plankton and Karen love story like that at the center of the movie. I thought was nice. That was the element that sold me the ideas. They really fell in love in college.
Oh my God.
Like that I felt was I'm just gonna keep saying it like that because it's just fun.
Right.
But that's the thing. It's basically that was a plot that we kind of seen before, like an episode of SpongeBob. So it's completely recycled. So I want to make that clear. Again, not an original movie premise. Just the idea Plankton has ticked off Karen, and now she's going to take over the world without him. That's essentially
that's the whole thing. Is that I feel like we've seen evil Karen a couple times.
Yeah, that's the thing. We've seen it before. It's just not.
Yeah.
So the writing's not fully, definitely not foolproof. We definitely shoehorned in action in like Act 3. But look, it was nice. It could have been a lot worse, and I could have done without the musical component, but it was all right. It wasn't Yates. It's definitely nowhere. Not a flicker in the wet darkness compared to the original SpongeBob movie. But
Sure.
All
right. So speaking of movies that had pretty decent, interesting looking trailers that really fucking disappointed me. Death of a Unicorn, man. This was brutal. And Dragon, this had such a good cast too. All right. Like we had Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd is the lead.
Ooh.
I have never been more bored by a Paul Rudd performance. I don't know what it was. I don't know what happened here. He was not on in this movie.
Why is this movie Memoirs so sad this month?
Dragon, I'm sorry, man. The best thing about this movie is the fact that Anthony Carrigan is in it.
Yay!
And he's essentially just playing NoHo Hank as a loyal butler to a rich family. And it is delightful. It's great.
That's something.
He doesn't have a lot of screen time, but what he does have is good. All right. Richard E. Grant, again, not a lot of screen time.
Good actor.
Yeah, but he's given it some He's doing some good stuff. Here's the problem with this movie. Oh, and Will Poulter. Will Poulter is the standout. Okay, like Will Poulter does steal the show. Like all the really good stuff in this movie does come down to Will Poulter. I will say that he is. If you're gonna watch this movie at all, besides Anthony Carrigan, he's definitely the reason to see it. I think the problem with this movie is that it's advertised so heavily as it's Jurassic Park with unicorns, and sure, but the execution, like, there's just something about it, just something in the editing, something in the way that the scenes come together. Like, so essentially the whole premise, and I do like the setup. I like the setup, and the setup does have some Jurassic Park beyond just the creature feature of it. It does have Jurassic Park kind of connotations with the premise, because essentially the setup is that Paul Rudd is taking Jenny Ortega to visit his boss in the middle of the wilderness. He lives in this wilderness preserve. His boss is Richard E. Grant. And essentially, like, I don't know. I don't really think they do a good job of establishing exactly what the job is. It's some sort of like billionaire tech company or something. Or no, I'm sorry, it's a pharmaceutical company. They do a decent job establishing it. So they're in the middle of this nature reserve. On the way to the nature reserve, Paul Rudd hits a unicorn with his car, and he puts the unicorn out of its misery. And essentially that unleashes a whole bunch of other unicorns to come and attack them for revenge. But the interesting thing about this premise, and the kind of Jurassic Park thing about it, is that the rich people do discover that the unicorn is in the trunk of Paul Rudd's car, and instead of being mad about it, they're like, they experiment a little with it, and they discover that the unicorn's blood actually cures cancer, because Richard E. Grant has cancer, and his cancer gets magically cured by injecting the unicorn blood. So essentially we have this whole premise of, like, they have a very limited quantity of the unicorn blood, so they're going to sell it for as high of a profit as they can. And then when the other unicorns come for revenge, they're like, okay, like, this is essentially, like, this is great because we're, like, basically getting more, more inventory for the magical unicorn cure. And so it is Jurassic Park in that regard, where it's kind of like it's fucking with science and the don't play God of it all. I think the problem is that it just, like, it lingers on it for, like, we go a long stretch of time where it's just establishing the whole, like, the unicorn blood thing, and I don't think we really ramp up with the other unicorns attacking until, like, the third act, and by that point I'm kind of over it. Jenny Ortega's role is basically just to exposition dump. She's kind of remembering a museum that her dead mother, which there's no reason there need to be a dead mother in this movie. Like, it's a tired trope. Paul Rudd could have just been a single father. There's no reason he needed to be a widow, but I digress. So Jenny Ortega, she's printing out all these tapestries that kind of point to the unicorn lore. It gets messy. It's over confused. It's not a terrible movie. There's some redeeming elements of it. The unicorn designs are cool. It is a creative concept. I think my issue is just that the editing and direction is just kind of bland. And like I said, Paul Rudd especially, just he does not have the charm. Maybe it's because his character is meant to be kind of unlikable. Like, his character is pretty much like, since he is the widow dad, he's trying to, like, get in good with these rich people and get a good position with the company, which causes him to do some pretty unlikable stuff. But it's not that, like, you have to really be trying to make Paul Rudd not just unlikable, but just not charismatic. Like, he can still be unlikable and still be charismatic. You know what I mean? And he's not charismatic. That's the problem. So Will Poulter is great. Will Poulter is the son of the rich family, and he's just, like, he's literally, like, grinding up unicorn horns and sniffing them as cocaine, and like, I mean, he's having a ball, man. He's on top of it. He's the reason to watch it. But Other than that, there's just a lot of messiness in this movie. I don't really think it comes together all that well. I think there's some memorable creature designs and stuff, but it's just a big mixed bag. It's a big mixed bag is all I can say. All right. Okay, what's your last one?
All right, this one you want to perk up for. This is Con Mum.
Okay.
Okay, Con Mum is a documentary on Netflix, and it was good. Okay, here's the thing. It's a documentary on Netflix, not about murder for a change.
No. I didn't know those existed.
I know, right? So this is about, seriously, I recommend this to you. This is a really good one. This is it's a feature. It's about a New Zealand chef, Chef Graham Hornigold. Sweet guy, sweet as can be, nice. You know, he's a good fellow. You know, he fell in love with the chef co-worker, and they had a baby together. And you know, this was like during lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
When this started. So basically, we learned the guy had a really bad childhood. Now the blue, his mother, that he, you know, he's 45 years old. He grew 45 years without his mother. You know, his mother reconnects with him during the pandemic because, you know, what else are people going to do? And basically, you know, she's back in his life, and it's like, oh my God, this is a nice healing experience here. And he learns that she was like, you know, she's the illegitimate child of like a sultan, so she has money coming her way from like a royal family of some kind. But you know, then she learns that, you know, she's dying, and she wants to leave it all to him.
Oh boy!
So here's the catch: being an 80-year-old woman, or roughly, like, you know, when the story starts, she's probably like 70 something. By the end, she's like 80. So like this 80-ish-year-old woman, you know, she has trouble getting to the bank, so she needs money. You know, so basically, it's basically this con that the mom is pulling, and it's like it's shocking. You know what goes on.
I mean, I'm willing to bet that she's not even the actual mother, right?
Well, you're gonna have to watch that one, Tiki.
Okay.
Good but that's the thing. It's like it's amazing. Just like this mother coming back into his life, and just this big time fraudster. It's shocking, and it's true story, obviously. And it's just like just seeing her come back into her son's life and just tearing everything away from him, just tearing him apart. And it's just this it's just very enthralling. You're gonna watch and wonder how is this working, and like how does this, like, oh my God, and then you're gonna be it's gonna start so feel good and then just go so dark, you know. Right, it's like oh my God, it's like real stuff too.
Have you seen Three Identical Twins?
Yeah,
that movie is also kind of like, it starts very heartwarming and then gets very dark.
that scene in the rain for getting the umbrella.
But
that's what I'm saying. Like, this is like, it lulls you in that sense of false sense of security, and then it's like the real master manipulator stuff, man. Like the little things that are just gonna get you in the guts, man.
Okay. Nice.
Like, Con Mum was a pleasant surprise of the documentary stuff this month. I'll tell you that.
Cool. Okay, I can speed run through these last two. Woman in the Yard, Dragon. This is essentially just a Babadook ripoff. The poster looked creepy. Like, the poster is just like this Grim Reaper looking woman in this all black kind of like very elaborate costume, like sitting outside outside the house, like, ooh, what's she up to? Dragon, she's a metaphor for grief. She's a metaphor for trauma. Just like half the other like monsters in horror these days, they don't do really anything creative with her. The actual woman is played by she's played by the woman who played Vertigo in Agatha All Along.
Yeah.
So, you know, some MCU cred, and she does a good job. I think she's got a cool look to her. Daniel Detweiler plays a widow, kind of a running trend this month with horror adjacent projects. And she's kind of become a deadbeat mom. Like, you know, she's not paid the electric bill, so the power's off, hence they can't charge their phones, hence they can't call the cops. They're out in the middle of nowhere. They're kind of like one of these rural farm communities where like the neighbors are like miles away from each other. So it kind of does set up a good sense of isolation. But the whole movie is essentially just Daniel Detweiler, like, kind of like battling in her own trauma and grief regarding her husband's death in the form of this woman in the yard who is haunting her. And it's pretty obvious what the woman in the yard represents. And this movie is like not even an hour and a half long, but it's a slow burn and it's kind of a slog. And I did not like it. Black Bag. I just don't even know with this one. This is a Steven Soderbergh project.
This one looked good to me. You're saying this was also a...
Dragon, this one just... The problem I had with this is that maybe my dumb brain just didn't get it, but it was too complicated for me. Like, because the premise should be good, but I just think the problem is that, like, the editing here, like, you just get overwhelmed with info. You get overwhelmed with different characters, different motivations. I just had a hard time keeping track of it, and because I had a hard time keeping track of it, I did not really enjoy myself. There were just too many moving pieces, too many side plots, too many characters. It just felt very messy, and it's a shame because Soderbergh directed what I still think might be... No, I mean, The Day the Earth Blew Up is probably my new number one of the year, out of the stuff I've seen this year, obviously, out of the 3 months we've had so far. But Presence is up there. Presence is definitely, like, in my top 5 of the year so far, and that was also a Soderbergh movie. So it's kind of like Challengers was my number one movie of last year, but then Luca Guadagnino also made Queer, which I just did not jive with. I did not like. So it's kind of like that. I don't know. Again, it's just kind of like it's just too messy of a movie, too many movie parts. I just had a hard time following it. Maybe it was just my dumb lizard brain. I don't know. Okay, that's it. Moving on, we got TV. Okay. Win or lose. Yeah, so we pretty much said what we need to say about this. I honestly, Dragon, for me, I still think this is great.
Mm-hmm.
I think that with the Kai stuff, at the very least, there's some acknowledgement. They didn't completely write it out. I feel like if you want to read between the lines, you can.
Yeah.
And other than that, I think it's all great. I again, Dragon, I can't get over the ending to this. I think the ending is perfect. And you know me, I love a good ending.
I think they delivered on what they promised.
I think the ending is just, it's so bittersweet. It sticks to landing. And yeah, I don't know, man. This just, it really strikes me, man. It really brings me back to my middle school days. Like, it's just very nostalgic in that regard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Listen, man, I was hyped for Pixar's first real streaming series, and I think they absolutely delivered on it. You know, it was I was impressed by the storytelling at play here. Just again, big one for me, the mother-daughter episodes. Loved it. Just again, it's the recontextualization within our story with all the shifting POVs. I loved it. It was just, this is what I love Pixar for, man. So it was it's a shame, you know, Disney's kind of shut the lights out on.
Yeah, I hate the fact that like the controversy just kind of like people essentially disown this show because of the controversy, when the controversy really didn't have anything to do with any of the creatives involved. You know? That's the shame of it.
And again, you can kind of see in the end product, they wanted to put that in there. I mean, it's essentially there, but they had to cut out the part of it that made sense.
Right.
That's the thing. It's like, it's still there. It's
I don't know. It's a lot that you're playing softball instead of baseball.
Yeah, it's like we can't say the words, but again, the scene was still there.
Right.
You know, and everything else in that episode really works. So it's frustrating, but again, we can't hold that against Pixar. That's a call.
I could very much hold it against Disney.
Well, yeah. Anyway, so
okay. Next up, we have Invincible season 3. I mean, again, what more needs to be said? I think outside of like the animation, beyond the last couple episodes was mixed at best. I will say this, Dragon. I do not like Eve this season. I do not like... What? I don't know if that's a hot take.
That is a hot take. You don't like Eve at all this season?
Dragon, she just exists to be Mark's, like... she exists to be Mark's girlfriend. Like, that's all she is this season. Like, I feel like she ceased to be her own character.
You don't think that was earned? Like it's like season 3. We built up the relationship.
Have you seen the meme about the rooftop chats?
No.
There are so many rooftop chats in this season where it basically just boils down to Mark like going over his, his moral conflict of the episode, and Eve being like, "Well, I'm sure you did the best you can." I don't know.
You didn't think that was nice at all?
There's just too much of it. It's repetitive. She doesn't have her. I think season 4 she'll have her own character stuff with the new development on her powers, but I don't know, man. And we practically fridged her in the finale,
No, come on. That was from the comic, though. That was a big moment.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, okay. I think Kirkman's doing the Lord's work. I thought this is even better than season 2. Finally did Conquest.
I definitely think it's better than season 2, and I don't even think season 2 was like that bad. But yeah,
I'm not putting down season 2. I'm just saying this is like even better. This is great. So I mean, we finally did Conquest, and because of Conquest,
I think the Conquest fight is arguably on the same level as the season 1 finale, which is a hard bar to hit.
At the very least, we measured up to the season 1 finale. Seemingly was impossible. It's like this is why we let the original team, the original creatives, like give them the opportunity to readapt their work. This is why you do. This is the best version of what you get by doing something like that here. I love the theme of like the good guy or the guy who saves the world. It can't be both. I love that as like the thesis statement of the season. We did a lot with that. And the whole challenge of realizing the shades of gray. That was great. I'm so hyped for season 4. I'm head over heels for season 3 of Invincible.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Reacher.
Season 3. So yes, continues to be very solid show. Season 3, possibly the best one yet. Here's the thing. So season 3 adapted. I want to say I'm not familiar with the books. When I hear adapted one of the most popular books. So because of that, this was a big one for them. And that's the thing. You could probably jump into any season of Reacher without even having to watch the other ones because again they're all very. He's the Incredible Hulk. He's the Bill Bixby Hulk. He just goes to a different town each season. So it's pretty self-contained. But he. But yeah, so this is like one of the best sales of a Reacher plot yet. Just the idea of it's an infiltration mission. It's kind of going undercover. The huge guy who seemingly could never go undercover is going undercover. And it's less again him using his physical stature, but his intelligence. That's what's really impressive about it. We show this we have a character because Alan Richardson's he's like 6 feet tall. He has an antagonist this season who makes Reacher look tiny. Tiki, and this is like an actual man, he's like 8 feet tall. It's insane.
It's funny because we have like Henry Cavill in Mission Impossible Fallout, but like Tom Cruise is kind of tiny anyway, so that wasn't really hard to do.
That's the cool thing about this. It's like we have already like this guy. The joke of the show is like Reacher is basically like if Bill Bixby was in Lou Ferrigno's body. That's essentially what Reacher is. So it's like, oh my god. So the fact that you have this guy who's even bigger, and you, the audience, member, okay, eventually Reacher and Paulie are going to tussle. Eventually this is going to, they build it up, and oh my god, when it happens, Tiki, like this mountain of a man versus Reacher, it's like, oh, this is like the fight. This is like, it's like the original Freddy versus Jason. Only what if Freddy, was like Super Freddy from one of those Nightmare on Elm Street movies? Like, oh my god, it's the square off they have is gobsmacking. But even besides the fight, it's a very solid. Anthony Michael Hall is in it. He plays one of our bad guys. We have some Boston FBI agents. We got some fun banter there. It's again, this is a high point of the show so far. It's along with Invincible is what's paying the bills at Amazon. This is doing good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. So let's see. For me, we got Adolescence. This is essentially like the world's most well-produced after-school special, Dragon. I say that in like a complimentary way, but at the same time, it is very heavy-handed. So essentially the idea here is that it's 4 episodes all centered around a 13-year-old boy who kills a classmate, and he kills her essentially due to the Andrew Tate kind of manosphere incel red pill crowd, and the thing kind of like makes a very pointed argument for that, and a pointed argument for why that sort of like toxic masculinity incel culture is so dangerous to young people. The really interesting thing about this show, though, is that every episode is done in real time, and it's done in one take, but it's not done in the Birdman style one take where it's like a collection of takes stitched together. Like, no, these are true oneers, Dragon. Like, there's no trickery here. These are true, like, hour-long episodes that are actual one take, no cuts. The cinematography is very flowing. I think the quality kind of depends episode by episode. Like, episode 1 is all about the kid's arrest. Like, you start with like just the cops just totally raiding the house, and you see the 13-year-old kid, and he just seems totally helpless, and you're just going through the interrogation process and everything. Episode 2 is the cops collecting evidence at the school and kind of getting into the Andrew Tate kind of incel manosphere of it all. Episode 3 is by far the strongest episode, and that is a youth counselor trying to do a psychological profile of the kid while he's in prison. And let's just say the kid's performance here, like, the first time you see him in episode 1, he is like very much like a scared, whimpering little child. He's the goddamn fucking Joker in this episode, right? Like, and I don't say that in the meme way. I say that in like the scary way. Like, this kid commands the screen, and it's the actor's first role ever, and he just gets it. So, like, I mean, episode 3 is by far the strongest, and then episode 4 is essentially the fallout. It's the family kind of dealing with the consequences, dealing with the stigma surrounding this kid. It's a very good show. It's very well made. The camera work is obviously a highlight. The performances are engrossing. It is very heavy-handed, though. It is very of its time. Frankly, I don't think this thing is going to age very well. But I think it's worth checking out for the cinematography. It's very impressive filmmaking. Again, it's very on the nose for what it is. It's very, very on the nose. All right. Okay, next up, Dragon.
All right. Harley Quinn season 5.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is a completionist watch. Show's not getting any better. It's bad. It's just getting worse with each season. Like, we're not even in Gotham this season. We go to Metropolis. It was just downhill after season 2. It's character assassination on Batman to a T. Just a lot of it. Even Alfred, just poor Alfred. Like, this is the season where again, like, I want to be clear, the actor playing Alfred again. Those early seasons, right on the money. But here we basically, I can't, I barely can even say it. Just Alfred kind of turns into a bad guy for an episode, and it says, no. I mean, like, he, and I know it's technically like a deep cut to like one time in the early 50s era Batman comics. Alfred like kind of hulked out and he turned into a monster. In this case, he gets cheesed off at Bruce Wayne being inconsiderate, and he basically uses venom and he tries to kill everyone. It's stupid. I hate it. It's just, again, the Cell this time was going to Metropolis for the Superman of it all. I mean, all I can tell you is the only good part of the season was we did like 2 or like kind of flashback origin episode. Like, seeing Ivy's origin was pretty good. Like, the fact that she kind of has like a mother-son thing with Frank, the JB Smoove character was nice. And the big one was the Ed Brainiac episode. We saw, like, we kind of, again, doing comedy, but also pathos with Brainiac is something I never saw coming. That, at least, again, Harley Quinn at its best was like basically like we're taking an irreverent but accurate look at the DC, like an irreverent look at the lore of DC Comics. That is what the sell of like the first 2 seasons of Harley Quinn was. Where this is stuff that you could see these characters doing under the right irreverent comedic circumstances, but it would still feel on brand for him. Then after season 2, we just went off the reservation. Mm-hmm. Brainiac, it feels like we're still showing his mission, but what if we added like the layer of comedy? What if Brainiac had a family on his home planet that he left his mission to do. But he did actually like them, but his programming got in the way of really being with them. And when they died, it did affect him. It kind of drove him to madness. Kind of an interesting premise and a solid episode. But again, when we get back to our main plot, it's like, yeah, it begins again. It's just, you're spinning our wheels with Clayface. I'll tell you this, another highlight. Harley Quinn's mother comes back in this one. Her mother is voiced by Susie Essman.
Oh, nice.
I think she's always been voiced by Susie Essman, but she's like very prominent. So it's like, oh man, we're doing a lot of Susie Essman comedy. So at least there's that. So again, it's not good. All right, moving on.
All right. Yeah. Well, you know what is good, Dragon? You know what's very good and lives up to the hype?
What?
Severance season 1.
Okay.
I mean, goddamn. Did you know this was done by Ben Stiller?
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay. Oh man, do you know about the premise for this show?
Not at all.
Oh, it's a trippy premise. So essentially, it's like very dystopian. The company is like, I want to say it's Amazon, but it's very mysterious what the company actually is. But essentially, like, severance is the procedure where you have a chip inserted into your brain, and that chip essentially splits your brain into two personalities, an innie and an outie. The innie only knows work. The innie literally only exists like when your innie switches on through that chip. It doesn't have any memories of life outside of work, and it only exists in the workspace, in this subterranean office environment that you've seen, like if you know anything about the setting of the show. So basically, when they go to work in this building, they go down this elevator, and the chip switches on the innie side. And like I said, the innie does not know anything about anything going on in the upper world. They don't have any memories of who they are on the outside. And then the outies are the complete opposite. Obviously, they have their, they know who they are as people, but they don't have any memories of like the work. And the whole thing about this is that the innies and the outies are very different people. And it's very compelling because you really get this sense of like the innies are their own people, right? Like they are inherently like, you are essentially creating an entirely different person by doing this. And the show gets into so many different like moral ramifications and implications with it. The character development is just stunning. A couple big highlights of the cast: John Turturro, Christopher Walken. They have a romance, and that sounds very unconventional, but it works. You totally buy it. Zach Cherry, Dragon, this man he embodies Jacob Gulliver. Like, Jacob Gulliver is basically a character on this show. Like, there's so many Gulliver mannerisms in this character. It's really funny. We have Mr. Milchick, who is the supervisor to the innies, and this guy is like the classic, like he's kind of that Gus Fring mold of like he's the smiling boss, but like that he's got like some nefarious shit going on bubbling right under that friendly work smile. Here's the thing. Season 1 is very straightforward. Season 1 is basically like we're introduced to like the main character innie, and let's just say her outie is essentially like a very, very important character. I don't want to give it away. It's a big spoiler that gets revealed at the end of the first season. But her outie is a very pivotal player in the grand scheme of things. And so season 1 is kind of setting all that up. Season 1 is also kind of setting up the innies kind of discovering who they are, discovering like that the situation that they are in is indeed very fucked up and that they need to do something about it. Season 1 might have one of the most freaking great finales that I've ever seen on television. I mean, it just really fires on all cylinders. And frankly, I was really, really glad that I didn't have to wait 3 years in between seasons like most people did in real time. We'll get into season 2, but I think season 1 is a masterpiece. Season 1 is just like on its own. The world building, the set design, the cinematography, the performances, the fact that pretty much every character on the show has different, like, they literally have different personalities that they're playing that really come across. Ooh, it's so good. It's so good. There's so much to dissect. It's really worth the hype.
You do know what Zach Cherry's also from, don't you?
Remind me. I'm sure we've seen him in other
stuff. Yes, you have. Yes, you've seen him in 3 things. He's from the MCU. He's the do a flip Spider-Man.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he's Clev. He's Clev, who was also he was in the Friendly Neighborhood, and he was also in he's in Shang-Chi. That's Gulliver.
Yes. He is very Gulliver-like, isn't he?
Oh yeah, now he's gonna give him Doctor Strange. It'd be perfect.
All right.
Okay. Let me tell you about real quick American Murder, the Gabby Polito.
Yay! Netflix murder documentaries.
Yeah, I'm not going to mince words. This was not as compelling as the past American Murders. It's archival, but it's not like done like a feature. It's done in 3 episodes. It's here's the look. It has a good sell at the top, but very unsatisfying ending. So I would not recommend this. It's basically there's a domestic incident that's captured on body cam. That's very effective the way we set that up. And then we have like the cell again. Episode 1, I'd say, is probably the most compelling because you have that we see the incident and we have like the shady parents of the guy from the domestic incident who are basically like covering up for the son, and it's shady as all get out. And anyone with the brainstem can say, okay, the parents are clearly hiding something here. And again, there's like some intrigue in like the missing girl case, and then it just kind of goes through the motions by the end. It's just. Again, it's just the problematic Netflix relationship to murder. Ultimately, yet again, we're just kind of like, where's the, where's the drive? It's just it's just like with tragedy that we've split into 3 episodes. It's essentially what it is. It's between that. Here's the thing: there's like the true crime relationship to murder that Netflix has, and then we have the relationship to murder by serial killers, which is the more problematic relationship. But this is just more been there, done that. That's more of like, okay, we're kind of glorifying some stuff we probably shouldn't be glorifying. But
it's just also just a very recent case. Like it's literally pretty much ripped from the headlines at this point.
If we're gonna do these things, it really should be the cases that no one has ever heard about.
Exactly.
So kind of shed light. That's the only time they really should, either that or something really miraculous that no one's heard about has happened.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Okay, so Severance season 2. This was a more ambitious season than season 1, but it was a lot more messy. There's a lot of stuff that just kind of like gets established. I don't know, man. It's hard to talk about this season because a lot of it just kind of builds off of what happens in the season 1 finale, which obviously I don't want to get into spoilers on that. It's very ambitious. There's a lot more world building at play. There's a lot of stuff that it tries. It takes some big swings. I like a lot of what it's trying to do. Honestly, I've heard people criticize Zach Cherry's storyline for being kind of disconnected from the rest, and it is, but I think it's also one of the most emotionally impactful storylines of the season, and I like it specifically because it's pretty straightforward. It's got a really good finale, although I don't think the finale is as good as the season 1 finale. I think the season 1 finale is an all-time good. The finale is still really good. Really, really memorable cliffhanger, although not quite as like devastating of a cliffhanger as the season 1 cliffhanger. I don't know. There's some really, really sublime episodes in the season, and there's also episode 8, which frankly sucks. Episode 8, Dragon, is essentially you remember that Stranger Things episode that was like the would-be spinoff, the backdoor pilot for it had that character 8 in it. Yeah, episode 8, ironically enough, of season 2 of Severance is kind of like that. It's just like it's very disconnected from everything else. So yeah, I think season 2 is definitely more messy. I did not like it as much as season 1. It's still really good, and it's still definitely got a lot of intrigue, a lot of food for thought, a lot of psychology in it. Just not quite as perfect storytelling as season 1. It took some big swings, but it's not quite as like rock solidly put together as the first season. All right.
Right. Hit Monkey season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been meaning to get to this. Just being in a Marvel mood lately, I just kind of felt like, okay, I'm finally gonna get this under my belt because it was like they kind of dropped the second season of this with no ceremony because of the whole how things shook out with the Disney Plus and Hulu and all that. At the end of the day, where there were some Marvel shows on Hulu that all got kind of like kind of canned, despite having plans to go on because Disney Plus was doing stuff. Anyway, so basically, the Hit Monkey show was good. Hit Monkey is a character that was created by Daniel Way, who worked on Deadpool and essentially was crossed over into Deadpool for a brief arc and things. Point is, an original character by a Deadpool writer. Anyway, he's written other stuff. I'm just saying that was like literally around the time he did it. Point being, first season was very good. It's the idea of it's essentially a hitman goes on an assignment. He gets killed, and his ghost is binded to a monkey that he then turns into a hitman, aka a hit monkey. It's a monkey that you can shoot guns and use swords to kill people, and ends up getting paid for it, despite not being able to talk, which is kind of funny. Anyway, so season 2, Bryce, the Jason Sudeikis character. So Jason Sudeikis is a producer, and he's essentially the main character of the show, voice wise. He's the ghost of the hitman. So at the end of the first season, essentially, he kind of like he helped the monkey out, and he seemingly ascended, but in reality, he got sent to hell. He's being tortured in hell. And not only tortured in hell, he's being tortured by Mephisto, by Keith David playing Mephisto, believe it or not, which is awesome. And he makes
that
a deal
is pretty
with him.
Good casting.
So season 2 has a really good sell, has a lot of good for it. There's one hang up aside from it, it's pretty good. It's the fact that the Bryce makes a deal with Mephisto that basically send me up to still guide the monkey to kill more people to send you more souls. So basically, he's using his friends so he can not go to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And also try and patch things up with his daughter that he left behind. So that was his reason for doing it. And we pay off the Lady Bullseye revenge story from the first season. There's a Lady Bullseye, and we kind of do there. Bryce, again, he's trying to reconnect with his daughter. His daughter, voiced by Kirsten Milioti, from The Penguin. And it's here's the thing. It's like this season we put him in the city. We put him in New York. Before it was a globe-trotting adventure. Now we're gonna go to New York, which I should be more excited about. The problem is we did kind of this. We had a plot line in which we're kind of teaming Hit Monkey up with like this band of people that are basically they're trying to save the world, and it takes them off like the killing people path, which is a conflict to Bryce. These guys just aren't really that interesting. They're very much like seeing the end of the world, and they're basically trying to facilitate the end of the world. It's one of those stories, and it's like, man, I don't like that. I don't like that we went there. So you can kind of see the writing on the wall that the monkey's being misled, and it just feels like, why are we bothering? But again, still, the stories that come with it, the Bryce side of the season is really good, and I did really like it. It's just the monkey could have stepped it up a little this season. I won't lie to you. But again, it was like we're exploring the mystical and kind of magical side of Marvel, which again, not always my bag, so I'm a little iffy on it. It's not bad. What they do isn't bad. Just I don't think holds a candle to what they did in season 1. So But again, importantly though, despite getting the axe, it has a full circle ending. It has an ending that feels like if we're going to end it, not check back in with it, this is a pretty good place to leave it on. So I think they lucked out, and I think they did pretty good there.
What's funny is that I kind of feel the same way about the ending of Severance season 2. Like, season 1 had a very clear cut, like, holy shit, that is an epic cliffhanger, and I cannot wait to see what happens. Season 2, it's a little bit more like the ending definitely leaves you like pondering what's going to happen, but it's more of like an Inception ending kind of pondering of like, okay, where do we go from here? Like, what is left after this? So, yeah. Anyways. Okay, next up for you.
Right. Real quick, All Rise season 3.
Mm.
Okay. So I recommend All Rise. I like it. It's I had seen the first 2 seasons and then it got canceled, and I heard it was going to be brought back on the Oprah Winfrey Network, and apparently it did. And I thought, well, I'm never going to be able to see that then, but miraculously it was on. I believe because of Black History Month, and they never took it away. Thank goodness. I think they added it to Max. It was like, hey, they had the whole show, including the third season I meant to watch, so I got around to it finally. It's again, I think I've told you about this before. So it's basically Simone Missick, Misty Knight from Luke Cage. She's a judge, and her friend is Wilson Bethel, aka Bullseye from Daredevil.
That's a pairing.
And here's the thing: so Wilson Bethel plays a lawyer, believe it or not.
Oh man!
So that's the thing. Like they're lawyers, and she ascended to judgehood, and they're still friends. And that was kind of the premise of the show. And he's the like Wilson Bethel, despite being terrifying on Daredevil, he is he's a pip in this show, man. He's great. So yeah, I mean, look, this is like in the vein of The Rookie, where The Rookie and All Rise are like, these are the legal procedurals I think we need right now. These are like the fun, like, we have good actors in them. It's like they're getting their facts, they're striving to get the effort and the facts right on these things. I would recommend it. I liked it. Season 3, the best part about season 3 compared to the other 2 seasons, because they have Oprah money behind them, I guess. They have a lot of freedom. Like we have F-bombs, we're getting, we're allowed to just go. We're not limited on that. I mean, they're not like going excess with it. It just feels like, man, this feels a little more realistic. This is kind of, So I'm iffy on the troubled marriage plot line. I won't lie to you about that. A little iffy on that. But aside from that, it's just great to see everyone come back and they kind of stepped it up, and it goes out on a nice ending, given I think they were only given the 1 season. I doubt they're coming back. So it was, if they're going to go out, at least we ended on a nice closure for some characters. So it was nice.
All right.
It was a good time.
Okay, Dragon, I do not want to go past the hour here, so let's speed run through our catch up if we can. You go first.
Right. Okay. So my mystery movie is A Real Pain.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, so of course, the written, directed, and starring Jesse Eisenberg. It's about the processing of grief in different ways through 2 cousins who are practically brothers. Backdrop of the Holocaust tour of Germany.
Mm-hmm.
I love the indie movie vibe on this. It's very performance driven, very intimate. Kieran Culkin, he earned his Oscar. I'll say that much. But it's again, we really. Basically, I feel the Oscar was less about the performance. It was more of like less about the specific performance, more about this is what he was doing on Succession. We just put him in a movie, so we gave him the award.
Yeah,
that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think there's a little bit more emotional vulnerability here than there was on Succession. Succession was more about just kind of like the dry wit, but not that there wasn't anything emotional about what he was doing on Succession, but.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, he's more direct about it than he was in Succession. All right. So, again, this one might be seen as like slow to a general audience, but I mean, I liked it. I'm not over the moon about it. I think it's solid. I like the humor, and
I really like the relatable tension within the tour group. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we've all been in that position where it's like there's one person that's just fucking up the vibe of a group. All right.
Anyway, so I like the stone gag at the end too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
my mystery movie is something that I've been meaning to get around to for a long time, and I finally did, and it's just as good as I was hyping it up to be. Music by John Williams.
Yay!
Oh my god, it's so good, Dragon. Jesus
right?
Christ.
Yeah, you liked it?
This thing is so watchable. It's so compulsively watchable.
Told you.
I mean, I don't know, like, I feel like this is going to be kind of like one of those, like, forever movies for me. You know what I mean? Like, kind of in the same style as, it very much reminds me of Empire of Dreams. Not quite as, like, ambitious as that, but honestly, the vibe is kind of like Empire of Dreams meets Frank and Ollie, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got kind of like the sprawling narrative of Empire of Dreams. Because John Williams, like, for example, I had no idea that he did the goddamn Olympic score. Like there's some stuff in here that I was very kind of taken aback by. Like, really? Like John Williams did that? But then at the heart of it, you've got the fucking super wholesome dynamic between Williams and Spielberg that is just so nice to watch, and it's kind of like the centerpiece of this whole thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what else to say. This thing is just very, very watchable. It's very nice. There's nothing really all that deep about it, but it's just an awesome kind of retrospect.
How cute was it? Right? Was I right about it being so cute when Spielberg interrupts his interview?
Yes, absolutely.
God, it's adorable.
Dragon, I just want to see a documentary where like Williams and Spielberg just go on a road trip together or something.
Well, we had that Will Ferrell. I mean, it's possible.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I need to watch that, by the way. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Venom: The Last Dance.
Oh boy. Dragon, I got like 5 minutes in and I just couldn't do it. I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't do it.
So, I mean, look, Venom was always like the one vaguely salvageable Spider-Man spin-off franchise that they had going for it, in that compared to the rest, it was like the only one that was an actual attempt at a movie, despite not having your principal character in it. I mean, look, it was like, for example, it was like I always deluded myself with hope on like, well, I mean, the first two had redeeming elements, maybe the third one would have it too. But I knew at this point, like, I wasn't going to see this in theaters. Just like the trailer, just like, look, despite the Eddie and Venom charm, I'm not compelled to see this one unless I hear. I was promised, like, the only reason I'm going to rush out to see this one in theaters if I find out after like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is in the movie. That's the only reason I would. He got to fight his alien. That's the only reason I rush out to see it. So it's just it's. I mean, I was curious.
I still remember hearing rumors that Reese Efron was playing a version of Uncle Ben.
Which is dumb, and I'm going to assure you that does not happen.
It was a version of Peter Parker.
Yep. and here's the just I had seen there's all to prove a point to Sony that, you know what? No, the buck stops here. I'm just not doing it anymore, you guys. I'm ending the cycle. Okay, you guys need to. I'm going to quote Anthony Mackie here. You need to do better, Sony. So I did have a curiosity in how it was all going to end, being they very much market like the end of a trilogy kind of vibe here. So it's a BS plot that allows for like the family of symbiotes in the third act. That's all it really is. Before the lights shut off on the franchise, it's like, okay, look, we're gonna make sure we get the plan of the symbiotes and like all the other family of symbiotes, and even if they make no sense and we don't develop them all, it's fine. I mean, look, I enjoyed the Eddie and Venom shenanigans. I do. I respect that Null was on the table, even if they didn't really use Null at all. We go to the planet of the symbiotes, kind of being the emphasis. I just hate that. The thing I hated most in this movie is that we just undid the whole post-credit scene from No Way Home. Like, we have symbiote in the MCU. Well, if we go by this movie, no, we don't. But I don't think anyone's going to factor this movie in.
Mm-hmm.
It's and also I hate that we're carelessly reusing Marvel actors. Like, hey, Risa Fon's just going to throw him in there as a Ram character because
right. That's definitely an issue.
It's apparently Risa Fon's needs money. And then the worst one, Chiwetel Ejiofor, who he really shouldn't be in this, and yet again probably really needs money, and I feel it's a shame. It was great to see. Best part of the movie. It was great to see Mrs. Chen come back. Best part of the movie.
Honestly, just based on the trailer and her in Vegas and everything, that seemed like the only part of the movie that had any sort of life to it.
She's in Vegas and she's in Vegas and she's doing good, and we have like the gag of like
specifically at Paris, right?
Yeah, she's in the Paris part of Vegas.
Yeah, which is, that also kind of intrigued me, just because that is where I stayed when I went to Vegas.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, that was the best part of the movie. Just her in Vegas, pretty much. Her and Venom hanging out.
I'm not gonna lie, I might just fast forward and watch that.
Yeah, just do that, Tiki. Just watch. Honestly, just watch like maybe like the opening and then that.
Right.
Well, then I guess the opening didn't sell. Well, not the opening with like Nolan space. I mean, like
Well,
like
that's what I'm
like
saying, Dragon. The
yeah,
Nolan
not like
space
skip
stuff was so boring that I
like
was just like,
skip
I can't. I just
like
can't.
just watch the opening like the Venom Eddie scene and then skip to Mrs. Chen.
Oh God.
If you're so inclined, maybe the Venom horse. If you're so inclined.
Fair enough.
Point being, look, I do enjoy. There's one running. I enjoy the goal of like Venom wanted to see the Statue of Liberty. Like he wanted to see Ellis Island. That's kind of cool.
Do they pay that off with him seeing the Statue of Liberty in Vegas?
No. You know what? No, they didn't.
That would have been. Why?
I
That,
don't.
It was right there. They could have done it.
Tiki. There's a chance they could have. I really don't think they did. There's a chance they did, but it went by like that. If they did it, I don't think they did. I'm with you because it just feels like they should have done that. Anyway, again, just weakest of the trilogy, and again, again, we go to New York by the end. Still no Spider-Man. So what's the point? Anyway.
Yeah. All right.
Again, the best part of Venom 2 was that guy, and we didn't even pay that off.
Okay. Moana 2, what the hell do you think I'm gonna say about this thing?
It defied expectation.
Say about this thing.
It defied expectation. You loved it, and you loved it even more than the original.
Okay, the only reason I saw this, Dragon, the only reason is because I am already so invested in the Walt Disney Animation Studios canon because I did the Great Disney ranking. All right. And number 60, when I did the Great Disney ranking, was Sword in the Stone. Holy shit, Sword in the Stone is such a better movie than this. Holy shit. Dragon, I don't even know. This is not a movie. It does not feel like it feels exactly like what it is. It feels like 3 episodes of a TV show. Characters just come and go, specifically the villains, without rhyme or reason. The songs suck. You very much feel the lack of Lin-Manuel Miranda here. The songs, like, pretty much uniformly are all just forgettable. The side characters are just as awful as the side characters in Lightyear. I mean, I don't even know. It's exactly as bad as you thought it would be.
Okay. All right. Fly Me to the Moon.
This looked all right.
Yeah, I like this. This was. I mean, I kind of delayed watching this because I heard people weren't really singing the praises of it, but it lived up to the trailer that I saw, and I thought it was enjoyable.
I don't say this is like an airplane pun, but it feels like it'd be a good airplane movie.
Yeah. Well, maybe. Well, again, there's always the risk of the rocket ship blowing up, so I don't know if you want to necessarily watch it on an airplane, but still. Though.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, it kind of seems like it's in that sort of ballpark, right? Where it's like it's a decent enough way to pass an hour and a half.
Oh, it absolutely feels like that.
Yeah, right.
So the point being, this is the behind the scenes of the moon landing. It's not a biopic, but it's about the whole speculated, like the whole did we fake the moon landing thing, and it's not all about that. But I'm saying I
want to know one thing about this.
What?
Do we have an actor cameoing as Kubrick?
Well, that's what you want me to tell you what happened?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what they do. Okay, so Jim Rash is in the movie. He does not play Kubrick. What they do is they acknowledge that they have this kind of like they talk about Kubrick, and it was a thing of like they're dealing with like this very very obsequious this kind of director is very fussy and he's very very fancy display. Again, he's very much a desperate indie director who is getting this opportunity, but he's acting like he's pretentious like Kubrick. But the thing is like, oh, we should have got Kubrick. Like they're regretting not getting Kubrick for this guy. So that's the gag of like so the idea is the rumor would spin off that they got Kubrick.
Right. Okay, that's kind of fun.
Anyway. Because they can't say that who the real guy was, so that's why Kubrick is probably the fault. That's the implied kind of get. Anyway, so so this not a biopic. It's about the speculated real. It has a lot of real events in it, but it's speculated based on it. So originally, this was slated for Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson. Evans had to bow out, so they had Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum, who still does a pretty good job. I won't lie. I would have liked Chris Evans, but still, this
I
is
think Chris Evans and Channing and Scarlett Johansson probably would have had better chemistry
that's
together.
that's what I would. That's
Yeah, yeah.
Because again, they're friends for a long time, and even
Uh-huh.
pre-cap, anyway. So, but yeah, so it's basically he's the launch director of the Apollo 11. He's a good guy. He was a pilot, and it's Scarlett Johansson. She's a marketing director. He feels very Joan from Mad Men. Not only just in that she's attractive, but just in the sense that she's like the enterprising smart lady of the '60s who basically is like she's helping NASA get funding and support by basically like doing like the associating the astronauts with Tang, stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, she's doing the PR and everything, and he's an honest guy. She's a and she has very manipulative tactics, being a marketing lady. So they very much bump heads over that, as you can probably imagine. So she's ultimately in the movie, like this is the halfway point. Woody Harrelson basically tasked her on a behest of the president to fake the moon landing as a backup, as in they will have it just in case if they launch. We want to have the moon landing just to make sure everything looks great, even if it's just in case something goes wrong. We want to have it on standby. And it gets to the point where Nixon pulls it's a very Nixon kind of lie tactic here, where it's like, you know what? Even if we do land, we're going to use the fake moon landing footage, and that's the conflict.
All right, Dragon. Let's. I'm sorry, I don't mean to rush you, but like, I really don't want to push past 11 here.
So. All right, fine. Well, I liked it. We're just going to move on.
Okay. I'm sorry. All right. Just had a lot of news this month that really slowed us down. Yep. Okay. In the Mouth of Madness. I watched this for a friend's movie night, and I really enjoyed it. It's old school 80s John Carpenter, kind of in the same era as The Thing. It has that same kind of like stop motion, or not stop motion, but practical effects quality to it. The cool thing about this is that it's based on a Lovecraft story, but they recontextualize it to be essentially like the author is a Stephen King type figure, even down to the fact that the town in this movie is set in Maine, because of fucking course it is. Sam Neill is the main character here, and he plays an insurance claims investigator who's essentially his whole thing is that he's just like super skeptical of people. And, he hears about this town that is very mysterious and overrun with like Lovecraftian bullshit. He goes to check it out. He's very skeptical of it, and he gets sucked in, and he goes crazy. I think the movie starts really well because it shows Sam Neill like already in a mental institution, and you're just like, oh, how did this guy get to, and then you see him like as the insurance claims investigator, and he's like very skeptical and very on top of this job, and it's like, okay, that's a good sell. How did he get from point A to point B? Like, what craziness went down for this guy to end up in an institution? I think it's very good. I really like the Stephen King meta stuff. I really like the practical effects. And frankly, with this friend of mine, he kind of introduced me to this kind of era of John Carpenter. I've really only seen like stuff like The Thing and the original Halloween on John Carpenter's end. So I'm excited to check out more 80s John Carpenter. I feel like it's kind of like opened up a new kind of like genre for me of this kind of like 80s body horror creature feature stuff. I'm excited to dive deeper into it. All right.
Batman and Me. This is a documentary about an Australian indie filmmaker who has a Batman '89 collection. It was an interesting documentary, to say the least. It's basically framed as a man with an addiction, which is collecting Batman '89 merchandise. Oh, I recommended this to Captain Logan, by the way, and he responded. He responded, and he seemed. I told him that's what it was about. He seemed like, okay, I'll check it out. So I don't know if he ever did or not. If anyone wants to tell me that, but point being, yes, essentially, it's a guy who, again, it hits the collector's brain really well. I will speak from experience on that, where it's the paranoia of the collector, where at a certain point, it's like these, it's the realities of collecting after a certain point, where again, it's like it becomes like all encompassing. You collect a lot of it, and then there's like the Holy Grail collectible, which basically for him is a Batman Monopoly game from '89. Mm-hmm. And this is like a nice off the beaten path documentary. I'll say that much. It was again, it felt real. I will say that much as a collector. So I think we hit the points there. So it was an interesting watch.
Cool, cool. All right. And finally, for me, we have Grand Piano. So, Dragon, you remember Carry On from last year?
Yeah.
Okay, Elijah Wood is Taron Egerton. John Cusack is Jason Bateman, and instead of an airport security guard, the Taron Egerton character is a concert pianist. You basically have the same goddamn movie.
Okay.
I mean, this felt so similar. It was weird. I think this is better than Carry On because I think the tension is better because essentially what you have here is the concert pianist, like they play around a lot with the fact that like he's like a very revered concert pianist who had a very public like he kind of biffed a very, very prominent like performance. He kind of like blew it. He kind of bombed it. And this is like 5 years after the fact or something like that. And it's like his comeback performance. But the stupid thing is like, you know, the Jason Bateman style character, like it's so similar. It's so similar where he's got like, you know, he's got the earpiece in. And you know the guy's like giving him all these instructions like over the earpiece and stuff. The grand piano was owned by Elijah Wood's brother, who has since died. And it's the stupid thing is, and the reason why these people are after it is that it essentially. Oh, this is so dumb. This is so dumb. It doubles. It doubles as a safe. And the only way that the safe can be opened is if you perfectly play a very, very complicated composition that happens to be the composition that Elijah Wood bombed 5 years ago. So essentially, John Cusack over the earpiece is like, if you don't play this perfectly and unlock the safe, I'm going to kill your wife. Like, I've got a sniper aimed at your wife. And there's some decent tension building. I just think I think it would have been better if the whole thing of like, oh, you got to unlock the hidden compartment of the piano. I think that's phony as fuck. I think that, like, once that was revealed, it kind of took away a lot of the tension because it was just dumb. But I thought overall, I definitely think it plays with the idea of like I don't know, Dragon. All these movies are just trying to be fucking phone booth, and phone booth so much better. We need to talk about phone booth, my dude. Seriously.
Yeah, I
have a conversation about phone booth. Phone booth, I bet phone booth would really hold up.
Yeah.
Anyways, so at the end of the day, yeah, this is just another kind of like phone booth ripoff. That's what I say.
Right. Okay, lastly, the Frankenstein complex. I love this. I'd recommend this one to you. There's a documentary about kind of film, you know, basically about effects in kind of filmmaking.
You know that we have 2 Frankenstein movies this year? We obviously have the Del Toro one, but then we also have one based on the Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So this is this is about. It's not literally about Frankenstein. It's about you know the kind of the effects and like the parallels to like classic monster movies and Frankenstein. This is about you know again, these are the effects guys and the filmmakers who love classic monster movies and the parallels that go into like the modern classics that we all know, like the American Werewolves in London, RoboCop, The Thing, you know, the Phil Tippett, you know, we talked to him. Yeah, like stuff like that. It's a delightful documentary. It's kind of
by Maggie Gyllenhaal, by the way.
Okay, what?
Maggie Gyllenhaal is directing The Bride. It's her.
Is Christian Bale in that one?
I believe he is. Yes.
Okay, so that's the one I was thinking of. Okay, yeah. All right. So I know it was Bride of Frankenstein, but okay.
Right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, it's a delightful documentary. It's kind of a greatest hits about, you know, it's kind of like the great makeup effects like Rick Baker's. They talked to him and Guillermo del Toro. I think it was like probably circa 2015. It's just, I don't know. I just found it was a good comfort watch, man. It felt nice, comfy, and cozy about like the cool makeup effects and stuff. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right, and that'll do it. Just the last thing we need to do is best and worst. What do you got?
I want you to go first.
Okay. Look, for best, it's kind of like a toss-up between Music by John Williams and The Day the Earth Blew Up, but like, I don't know, man. The animation, like, I honestly think I'm probably going to end up like I said, like, Music by John Williams is probably going to end up being like a forever comfort watch for me. But I think The Day the Earth Blew Up is like a freaking, like, it's a watershed moment in animation. Like, I genuinely think this might be like one of the big tipping points to getting 2D animation back. So for that alone, really good movie. I gotta give it to The Day the Earth Blew Up. It's pretty much a perfect movie.
All right. Best and worst for me.
I'm sorry. For worst, let's see. Anything in my catch-up worse than Mickey 17? Well, I mean, fuck.
What about the unicorn thing?
It's got to be Moana. No, I would put the unicorn one over Mickey 17.
Well, yeah, how was Moana 2 not your worst then?
It's got to be Moana 2, but I feel like that's just kind of like kicking a dead horse. But sure, it's got to be Moana 2.
That's not just kicking a dead horse. That's kicking a horse and your foot stuck.
I can't not say it's Moana 2. I'd be disingenuous to say it was anything but Moana 2. So yeah, let's just call it spade a spade there. All right.
Best and worst for me. I have a few contenders for best, but honestly, I think best is. I think it's going to be Novocaine.
All right, fair enough.
I didn't have a great month this month, so I'm going to say it's between.
Hey, Novocaine was solid. I like Novocaine. I won't fight you on that.
So there was Novocaine. Worst, I mean, I can pretty easily Venom: The Last Dance.
There you go. Right. All right.
It's not a malicious worst, but it's worse. Yeah.
I would say Moana 2 is pretty malicious.
No, that is sure. No, I get that.
All right. Okay, so thanks, big thanks to Code Geass, Little Blue, Teddy, and then, of course, a very brief cameo by Keeper Colby. Join us in the comments. Y'all rock. It's been a fun month. It's been a long show. Thanks for sticking with us. And we've waxed on for long enough, folks. And now it's time to put the pen down. Until next time, when we return for another fitting chapter in our movie memoirs. Farmer Jim. Remember Farmer Jim.